It's for the bitch warmers. Oh.
Oh, should I hit my mic? Man, what up, CBR fam? We we glad to be back. We had to take a week off for Halloween because we got children, so that's
Be
that's
back
where we
again.
both were. But we did miss
Yeah.
y'all, and I appreciate all the texts from people saying, "Is there going to be a CBR today? Is there going to be a
For real.
CBR? Where y'all at?" Like that makes us feel real good.
Nah,
But
yeah, we back.
we
We
had
back
to do
100%.
family stuff.
We had to get them cheering together. Hopefully y'all did too, man. Hopefully y'all took the cheering out. If y'all got them, let them get they food. I mean, not their food, they candy.
Candy.
Hopefully y'all ain't running to no weirdos trying to put up weird shit in y'all kids. Check y'all candy, basically. No, I did. I'm checking I'm an old school parent. I check my own kid candy.
I check my own candy.
Make sure they good.
Shout out to our sponsor Chris for showing up once again. He was the first person here, guns loaded. And we appreciate you, Chris. And who we got here? We
Let's
got
Kendra. What's up, y'all?
we got Trey, we got Didi, we
I
got
was just
James.
looking.
Hey, good looking
Tyler's up in
James.
here.
I'm glad you got two on them. We got Tuck, we got Salamander's weird ass.
Good job,
Uh,
James.
we got John
Diddy up in here.
Jones.
What up, Diddy?
What's up,
Tuck,
Didi?
Salad,
Uh,
Bill.
Crazy ass Bill. Bill, you on your meds tonight? We got Mikey
Good shit,
Marsh.
Tyler. John Jones.
We got cousin Alum.
Mikey Marshall, see him. Oh,
And
Allen up
Noel.
in here. Allen.
Alum
Shout
came.
out
What's
to
up,
Allen, man.
Orange County Chondros? What's going on, my good brother? But yeah,
Noe.
Keno, I'll let you go first. You got anything you want to put out there?
What we got?
In your nice ass wind defying hat. I can't even say hat today.
What
Fucked
the?
up. Oh, that's a
What?
hat.
Don't start, man. Don't start that shit too early, man.
But it's a nice hat. It's a really nice hat. So
Yeah, I'm a granddad hat. You know what I'm saying?
I want my own grandkids.
My daddy's watch.
That's my
Nah,
daddy.
man. For everybody. I'm gonna wait on that. I didn't want to talk about that. That's still sad. I bring that shit up. Tune in next week. I bring that shit up next week. Like, besides that, everything going good, man. It is definitely Cyclops season for sure. Cyclops season is in full effect. So keep your third eye open. Keep your Cyclops eye open, man. But other than that, man, you figure it out. You figure that one out. Stop being a fool, man. But man, we excited tonight, man. Y'all know how I feel about the OGs and the forefathers who came before us, and y'all know how we do, man. The Chondro Bar Room, we keep this thing rolling. We gave y'all a week off. You know what I'm saying? I hope y'all love that James O'Donnell episode.
Listen.
James O'Donnell is a damn fool, man. I swear. And I mean that with the utmost respect. He is a character, man. That dude.
Yes. Listen, I don't know if y'all know this, but James shouldn't even be allowed to have a Facebook account. Like, not even a Facebook account.
James, wow.
We love you, James. We hope you're here to see your homeboy tonight. Because we super excited about tonight to talk to Tim Morris. I don't got anything going on really. I got 3 holdback swans. They're up for sale. I haven't posted
Something my green trees out.
because I've been hella lazy. But it's 3 of them for sale. If you want to know, just hit me up. But yeah, he is pimping in that hat. Fly through the city in that hat.
That's my hat, man. What y'all doing with the nice feather? I'm a
It's that.
pusher man.
It's got that same feather from Mario.
You stupid,
All right, man. So we ain't got nothing else. So we're gonna get our guest of honor tonight
for
in the
sure.
house. And man, y'all give it up for a legend for real.
I don't even
Give it
usually
up.
do this, man, but hit the like button, man, because look, man, to have this man on right here, you know what I'm saying?
We've been wanting this
Come
for a
on.
long time. A real long
Come on,
time.
you know what? Come on, just bring him on. I ain't even gonna say no more.
I'm gonna
Let's
bring
do
him
this.
on. All right.
We didn't have to slow down in the pre-show.
What's going on, Tim?
I'm looking for a legend, man. I haven't seen one anywhere. You seen him?
You
All
better
right,
look in the
you must
mirror,
ain't.
Tim.
I'm about to say you must ain't sitting in front of the
Oh
mirror,
man,
Tim.
that's you fellas here. That not me anymore.
No,
I'm like I'm
No,
like the
we still
quarterback that
punching
needs
the
to
game.
retire. You know?
Yeah, but you still got the rings. You still got the rings.
Yeah, I
you
got
You
a
still
ring.
got
A
you got
ring.
the Nike commercial. You got it all under your belt.
exactly. Every time it's a post or something, they look far enough, your name gonna pop up.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, I guess, if that's happening.
But
Well,
well, how you doing tonight?
Good, man.
first
How are you guys doing?
we're doing good. We doing good because we got you here tonight. So
Yeah,
it's gonna
yeah,
be a
right
good
on,
night
man.
tonight.
Yeah.
So we hope that this show goes as planned. We hope James Obdahl don't break in your house. And
Uh, did he tell you what his nickname is?
no, he didn't.
I'll save that for my second gin and tonic.
hey, hey, I gotta ask you a question because he kept bringing up a term and we don't know what it means. We still don't know what it means.
We
What does
doing?
blottoed mean? What does that mean?
That's James's talk for just being shit faced.
We still don't
You
know.
go right toilet.
I always told James, if he didn't make it as a chondro breeder or a snake breeder, and he's certainly skilled at
Right
that,
toilet.
he's one hell of a comedian.
Yeah, he is. James is
He's
funny.
one of the funniest people I know.
Yeah, we're just
Did you
glad that he
make
doesn't
it
have
today?
access to Photoshop.
Did you make it today?
Oh man. Well, it's funny. You guys had Andy Middleton on a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, you guys should have hit me up first. I would have given you prime video for that little clip. I didn't know you guys did the little clips.
Mm.
We've got some cool video. If Andy's out there, he's probably. Oh no, don't go there.
Oh no, I'll still put it up. Listen, we will put it. It'll be a CBR exclusive. I will
we
put
do.
up an Andy Middleton video immediately. I'll put an Andy Middleton video up before he wakes up
Oh,
and gets out the house.
yeah,
But
this this
I got some pictures of Tuck still that we ain't used. That we gonna probably use for the second comeback.
this
Yeah,
one you
don't.
wouldn't even need the studio for. You just need to just run it.
No,
I mean,
that's all we got to
it's
do.
it's like plug and play. This video, man. It's just you don't need to do anything.
Oh man,
We might
we gonna
save
need
it
it.
for we might
We
save
gonna
it for
need
when he
that.
runs for office or something because
We
he
gonna
got
need that.
he got a young politician's haircut, so
He
I can
does,
see
man.
Pat, what's going on, Pat?
he looks like he's gonna be a senator at 31. Um, but yeah, we're glad you're here, and we know that for people that didn't spend time like scouring the MVF like me and Kino did, people may not have seen your name as much as we have. Um, and the names and posts that your name is attached to, and some of the animals that you are attached to as well. So we're gonna start it off. Just tell us where you started, and please start with your skateboard history too, and then we'll go from that into snakes.
Well,
Skateboard.
skateboard history was, a middle school thing. I just we were a bunch of friends riding and got into it. And back in the 70s and 80s, skating sort of, ebbed and flowed in terms of popularity. So I was into it in the 70s, got out of it in 79, 80, 81. And then 82, 83, videos started coming out. I got back into it. And then I was fortunate enough to uh, kind of get to where I was hoping to go, and it was, with a lot of help, and had a good sponsor, and he turned me on to a trainer who, trained people like Rodney Mullen, Tony Hawk, and he really helped me out. And was it
Wow.
'87? I won the national amateur title in California, and then
Wow.
turned pro after that. And then I got out of it, I guess, around 91, 92. Skating sort of died down a little bit. Kind of then revamped later in the 90s with the X Games. The kind of riding I did was flatland and freestyle, so it's really popular now, actually. And there's some fantastic skaters that have kind of done with, like, Christian and James and those guys, and John and Dave have done with the Chondros. They've gone next
Yeah.
level with stuff. And I, had some more boards made for me in the early 2000s. There was a guy out in Nevada who was making boards for the OG guys, and so he pumped out, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 different models. And then just recently, I literally 2 weeks ago, I'm surfing Facebook. I see this this post by my sponsor from the '80s, where he decided to do sort of a tribute legacy board for all the skaters that skated for him in the '70s and '80s and '90s. And so it's a, like one of the generic popsicle deck boards, and it has all the names of all the people that skated for him. So that's kind of cool. That's coming out in another couple of weeks, I think.
That's cool.
Well, it's cool. I had no idea they were doing it. I just kind of stumbled upon them, like, damn, what the hell is this?
He's like,
There it was.
there's always
you
something
still get out
going
there
on
on the
this damn
skateboard?
internet.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? So it's all good, man, because it keeps me, like some of the kids I teach, sometimes I got to teach them a lesson besides science, and that is they can't skate as good as me, So then we
You
got
can
to.
still get back out there on the skateboard.
Oh
Do
yeah,
some
yeah.
tricks?
Oh yeah, yeah. I still ride it.
Oh man, you're gonna have to set up a camera and send us a video.
Yeah, I got a couple from a couple years ago, little snippets that you could
Yeah.
check out. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still, I try not to get out and kill myself. I just turned 60, so my mind's like, takes me back to the '80s. My body's like, oh hell no, man, you're old as dirt now. Don't even
Do
think about it.
pop that Achilles, Tim.
Yeah, no shit, right? Yeah, you get these crazy little aches and pains, and they just last for weeks, and
Yeah.
just stupid little crap, that you never had to deal with when you were younger.
You ever get
So
like
enjoy those so enjoy those younger years, fellas, man.
Nah, I was in the army. I always get these weird pains in like
Oh
my
yeah,
heel.
well you would, yeah.
Just like every once in a while it'd just be like a pain in my heel. I'm just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
When did
they
I get
just
an
want to
injury like this?
They just want you to make sure you didn't forget about your experience there,
Nah, don't
I'm
try.
gonna start my ankle hooping, man.
That's why I'm
playing
drinking this
basketball.
brown.
There you go, man.
Brown.
So that is yeah, so that's pretty much the skating thing. I mean, snakes I've been chasing after since middle school as well. We moved out to this new community called Columbia, Maryland. It was supposed to be one of these model, communities, and
I used to go to
and they had
Columbia Mall all the time.
yeah, and they had a lot of open space and stuff like that. And this is way before internet and all that kind of shit. So when we were bored, we just walk along the streams and creeks and look for anything really. But snakes sort of became a focal thing, although you don't often find them. And that's where kind of it began. And I started keeping some things, I think, in high school, and then got out of it for a little while, and then got back into it, sort of like the whole skateboarding thing. And then around, I guess it was around 1990, I started getting back into snakes again, and there was a really good pet shop down the road called Just Winging It, and they had a really good reptile section at that time. And and then there was a couple of books that came out. One was the Ross and Marzek book, The Reproductive Husbandry of Boas and Pythons. That's like the Bible really for most of the older people. And in there, was just pictures of stuff you'd never seen before. And so one thing in there was the rainbow boa, Brazilian rainbow boa. And so I asked the guy at the shop, I'm like, hey, can we get one of these things? And he's like, yeah, there's a guy here in Maryland that breeds, and he says he has some. And so a couple weeks went by, he was supposed to get it in, and at that time, I guess the retail price was $400 they wanted or something like that. So several weeks had gone by and it hadn't shown up yet. So I just told the guy, I forgot his name. I think his name was Bob. Anyway, I said, look, man, can you just call this guy or go get it? I mean, if he's in Maryland, shit, I'll just drive. So he called him and the guy was like, yeah, cool. He can come up here. So, I went up there and the guy's house, it turned out to be Pete Call, who, the OG guy with the boa constrictors, the albino boas, and also the first person to produce piebald ball pythons. And so then we kind of formed a relationship, and I was going to school at the time, and he lived near where I was going to college. And I convinced him to let my nephew, Sean, and I, Christian's older brother, to volunteer at his place. Because I went over his house, went down the basement, and there was just walls lined with snakes, man. And I thought I died and gone to heaven. I'd never seen anything like it, right? I mean, there was rainbow boas, and blood pythons. I mean, you name it, right? And so the first thing I did was I ran out of there, and there was no cell phones back then. I went to a payphone and called my nephew. I'm like, Buck. That's what we always call each other, Buck, right? So I'm like, Buck, you got to come check this place out, man. It's awesome, right? You got to get up here. So, we went up there and we wound up, hanging out with Pete for the summer and basically cleaning water bowls. But I mean, it was like, an honor to do that.
Yeah.
And then through that same book, right, there were these pictures of chondros, and I became intrigued with them. And then in the photo credits for a few of them, it said Trooper Walsh National Zoological Park. I'm like, well, shit, that's right down the road, 30 minutes down the road. So I call up Sean again. I'm like, dude, we're going down there. We got to find this guy, right? So we go down there, and it's funny, man. This is a funny story. It's been told many times. We go down there, and the National Zoo's reptile house is like the inside of it's like a big oval, and so we walk in and we're walking around the exhibit. Anybody that worked for the zoo, and so we're at the far end where they have enclosures. So they have cubic cocks down there, false aerials, and they had something else down there. Anyway,
hey, Tim, stop for a minute.
Hey,
yeah, go ahead.
We're getting
Stop
like
Tim for a minute.
We'll let it buffer out. So
he might need to back out and come back in.
Hey, Tim.
That was getting good. I don't want to miss this.
Yeah,
yeah, we're on. Yeah, can you back out and then tap the link and come back in?
yeah.
Yes, Trey. You will be going to Golden Corral by yourself on Veterans Day. I'm not fighting old ass people to get a plate of salty ass mac and cheese. I got a dude I work with, and he was just like, "Hey, don't you go out and get your Veterans Day deals?" I'm just like, "I take the day off and stay in the fucking house." That's what I do. Because
you a veteran, man. You earned that, man.
I don't give a shit about none of this shit. I be in the house. Listen, I'm not waking up early to go stand in line at IHOP for 3 hours to get a plate of pancakes, bro.
Wow, man, you earned that day, man. Get your pancakes. You
Man,
do the same thing when you're a senior citizen. There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better. Could you start over with the story?
I never lost you guys. So where did I get cut off?
When you said that you went to the
National Zoo,
yeah. And you said it was like a big O.
Yeah, so we're down by the the croc exhibits, the indoor croc exhibits, and out of the service door, they had like at the end there they had one service door on like the right hand side, another one on the left hand side that kind of went behind the lines, and this guy comes out, and it's like the middle of the winter, and he comes out, he's wearing khaki shirt, short sleeve, shorts, no shoes, carrying a bucket full of rats. And I just happened to catch a glimpse of his
no
tag.
shoes. He was barefoot.
Oh yeah. That's the way Trooper rolled. So I caught a glimpse of his
Super
name
famous
tag, and it
story.
said Trooper, right? And he goes right behind us and into the other door. So I go to Sean. I'm like, dude, that was Trooper. He goes, no, it wasn't. I said, yeah, it was. He went in that door. I said, come on, man, we got to go over there. So we go over the door, and it's one of these things like, you knock, no, you knock, no, you knock. We're all like going back and forth, like, no, neither one of us was bold enough to do it. So finally I knocked, and like Lurch from the Addams Family, man, his door comes open a little bit, and he looks in. He goes, can I help you? And we're like, are you Trooper? And I don't even remember the exact, things that transpired after that. But he finally let us in behind the scenes where he was, and started talking to us, and after that, that summer, I went and started volunteering down there, and to try to get an inroad to the zoo, because that was one option for my career I was looking into, either that or teaching, or and also to get to know him and then some of the other people down there. So that was cool, and then I guess it was like the second year I was down there. It might have been the first year. I don't remember. The National Breeders Expo was coming up, and this is back when it was still in Orlando, and I remember my fiance at the time and I were going to drive down there to it because it was renowned for how big it was and all the breeders were there, et cetera, and it was a place to be. So I was talking to Trooper about it, and I was like, hey, my fiance and I were looking into picking up a green tree. Do you have any that you're going to be selling? He goes, nope, I don't have any. And I was like, all right, cool. And he looks at me, he goes, and I just don't sell to anybody. I'm like, oh, damn, I've been like busting my ass around here for I don't know how long, and now he's playing our ball, right? So we get down to Orlando, and he's down there with Eugene Bissett, Theological Services, and I mean, their table's just full of chondros, man. They're everywhere, right? So my fiance, who also had a little rapport with him at that time, he goes over to him and it's like, so you don't have any chondros for sale? What the hell is that all about? And then Trooper just kind of with this sheepish grin was like, yeah, I've got a couple. So she really liked the yellow babies, right?
Okay.
And I kind of took liking to the maroons. So we were kind of like stuck on what we were going to get. And so we were going to get this little yellow baby, I think it was, for like the going price back then was $750. Basically, all of them were $750, except for the older ones. And so
The good old days.
Yeah. So we picked up one, or we picked out one. And he comes over with this other one that's $200 more, $950. And so he's like, wouldn't you rather have this one? And she's like, why would I want that one? It's $200 more, and it's maroon. And he goes, because it's bigger. It'll probably make the trip back to Maryland. I mean, which is a total crock, because any one of those made the trip down, they would have made the trip back, right? So he sold us on that one for $950. So we bought that, and the very next day,
hey, Trooper was hustling, y'all.
Yeah, he was a hustler, man. He is. He's yeah. So I got other stories where he was hustling people, including Greg Maxwell, who I know you guys had on a little while ago.
Greg.
Yeah. So
you can get to that one too. Go ahead.
Yep. So anyways, the next day I was just there talking to him by myself, and he would travel, like, I don't know if you're familiar with these, like I don't know what the hell they are, like Crystal Light drinks, like lemonade and cherry.
I remember those.
They're like in these little white tubes, right? And he would actually, melt holes through them, and those would be sort of his transport tubes for bringing chondros down to Florida. So he pulls out this little tube, and he's like, "Hey, man, I know you've been working hard at the zoo, and he was like, I want you to have this." And it was a runt, and it was a twin. The egg mate died, and he didn't think it would. Basically, in his own words, he said, "I don't think it'll amount to much, but you'll give it a good home." And that animal turned out to be the sire to Mr. Blue.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Really?
yeah. So,
Really?
and here's the funny part of that, right? So it turns out that that animal we bought for 950 was turned out to be a female. It was actually a litter mate to the little runt that he gave me. And
Right.
and about a year later, you know, I started thinking about the whole breeding scenario, you know, and these were the only two chondros I had. And so I hit
So
Trooper
you was
up.
only a year in when you was thinking about breeding.
Well, I wasn't actually going to breed then. It was
Yeah.
just kind of thinking this may happen now
Yeah.
that I knew
No,
what
I'm
the
talking about
sex.
just like laying the foundation for it. I mean.
Well, yeah, and at that time I didn't know what the sexes of the animals were because you know
Okay.
it was recommended then and even now, you know, you wait till about a year old. So anyway, I hit him back up and I'm like, hey, Troop, you know, I'm thinking eventually I'm going to breed these two, but I'd rather not breed litter mates. Would you want to trade one of these back? He didn't have any interest in the male, you know, the runt, but he did trade me a female, right? So that female turned out to be, well, I guess what became known as the Tim Morris Blue female, but it was actually a litter sibling. I don't know, litter mate. I think it was a litter mate to Powder and Joan Collins. I mean, a super powerful sort of blue line, you know, if you will.
Yeah. It
And
was.
so, you know, I bred those two together in 95. And in April 96 is when Mr. Blue was hatched out. And that was a maternal incubation because at the
Yeah.
time I didn't have, you know, Eugene and Trooper at that point in time were using Forma Scientific incubators,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
like 10, 15 grand or whatever they were. And there was nothing really else out there. So I didn't feel like I had a viable option to artificially incubate the egg. So, you know, my maternal incubation experience was more out of necessity than anything else.
Okay. So
Before
before we
you
get into
be
your maternal incubation, why was it so important for you to not breed siblings
hold on.
when you were thinking about that?
Hold on, before you answer that question, I got one thing to say.
Go
Listen,
ahead,
when
Trey.
you were talking about your books, your book list is still in the MVF. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I want to say. It's
You mean
still
the
It's
the
still
book
there.
list or the breeder list?
the list of books that you recommended. It's still
Oh,
posted in MVF. I
oh
saw it
God,
today.
you have to send that to me. You
I'm
know,
gonna find it. I'll send it to you tonight.
I've you know forgotten. I mean, I guess you know more than I guess I may remember. Who knows? And with age, it just keeps going downhill. Yeah, so I don't know, man. I mean, to answer your question about the whole breeding thing, I mean, I wasn't that wise to it, you know. But of course, you know, when you dealt with Eugene and Trooper, and they were the ones who sorted. Well, they weren't the ones who sorted. They did. They started the whole, you know, the whole genealogy thing. I mean, they kept track of all the founders, all the contributing animals
Mhm.
to these bloodlines, right? So, and that was one of the appealing things of buying something from them is you knew exactly what the history and the background the animals were,
Right.
and I just, I mean, I guess I would have bred the litter mates, you know, and I did in the future with, well, not really litter mates, but you know, I bred Mr. Blue back to the mom. Um,
Okay.
so I wasn't really, you know, averse to it. I just asked him because I knew he had a whole bunch more chondros, you know, and I had no
Okay.
idea what I
Okay.
had,
All right. Cool.
you know.
Okay. That's just something I've been
So
wanting to ask you for a while. After I heard
yeah, I mean,
you
I
talk about
just,
that
yeah, I
earlier.
mean, I in several ways, I mean, you know, my luck was probably more about ignorance and blind luck than anything else, you know.
Okay.
So
All right. So you
But
got the maternal. You got. Go ahead. Go ahead, Trey. What you got? Come on.
so my thing is when you're talking about how you acquired these animals, like it's not really a question. Listen, these are super 80 stories. You just going to find people and just driving to find people. This doesn't happen anymore. People just don't go
yeah,
find people. So you
Just
had
well,
just pulling up on people at the zoo.
well, they
you
do. It's just
you
easier
had
now. I mean, we didn't have social media and all that back then, so we had to get in the car and go, man. You know.
Hey,
yeah
but you
And
gotta
yeah,
we
and
did
realize
that
that's
with
how it
times
sounds.
was different though. It was
yeah,
more
we did that
peaceful
with
then.
Pete, and we did that with Trooper, and then through those guys met a whole bunch of other people. So But
And
yeah, it was one of
also,
those things. You just had to go and do it.
when he was talking earlier about Christian, what he meant was Christian Stewart. You guys didn't pick that up. Um, but I do have one question about husbandry. So I can go back and like when you're talking about how they were transporting these animals in tubes and things, and how you didn't have an incubator, and you just maternally incubated. I want to know, like, how did you keep babies at that point in time?
Well, by the time I actually got to breeding them, um, if my memory serves me right, so that summer, um, I was going through I just got hired as a teacher. I was going through the orientation in August, and Trooper was going back down to Orlando, and he had asked me to watch his animals while he was gone, which was an awesome honor, even though, it was kind of a pain in the ass drive going from Northern Virginia back to, Howard County, which, I mean, about the, DC Baltimore traffic. I mean, it's a nightmare.
Yeah,
But anyway,
it's,
I did
yeah,
that. So, I mean, I did have, some experience with how he kept things and how he kept, the babies. And it was just a basic shoebox with a diagonal perch and, water bowl, and that's it.
like a cardboard shoebox.
Well, plastic ones, like
Okay,
tubs,
Yeah.
shoebox tubs.
I don't know. I
What,
didn't
were-
know
what
y'all
were
Nothing
had.
y'all?
elaborate.
But what were y'all using for heat then though?
Heat tape.
Okay. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, so my Neo setup, and there's pictures of it out there. Um, it was, and I still have it actually. It's just a shoebox rack, 3x5, with heat tape, like plumber's heat tape, like the pipe.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, not like the Flex Swap, but like the rubber thinner. I guess they use it to wrap pipes with, heat them
yeah,
up.
that
So,
makes a lot of
and that's
sense.
still running. Company's no longer around, but that's still going.
Mm,
Yeah. So
that was
as
nice to
far as
see.
as far as dealing with Trooper's collection back then, what was the variation of locales and different type of animals that had lineage? Like, what did it look like back then when you were actually like helping them with the collection?
Well, there was no locales back then. I mean, everything was
Yeah,
just kind of mutts. I don't think the locality specific stuff started coming in until maybe 94, 95, when some people started bringing in the farm stuff. Bob Clark, Gary Sipperly, um, it was a few years after I gotten into it. And, but there were several different lineages he had there. And I know he and Eugene were um, often, I mean, they were pretty much one and the same back then, always exchanging things,
Mhm.
And of course, Trooper was at the zoo, and he had such clout there that some of the zoo stock actually was stuff that he could then pull to the private sector, which, so, National Zoo is a Smithsonian institution, so it's a federal zoo. So unlike municipal zoos where they could actually deal with the private sector, National Zoo couldn't, you know. And so Trooper sort of circumvented that with his clout, that he earned through, his breedings of rainbow boas, emerald tree boas, of course the chondros, and then most notably the Komodo dragons.
yeah,
He was the mind behind that. And National Zoo was the first zoo outside of Indonesia to hatch Komodo dragons, and it was Trooper Walsh who basically worked that all out from the
I didn't
enclosure
know that.
design.
Mm,
Yeah, from the enclosure design to
mm.
incubating the eggs. And the first clutch they had, they actually split up. Some were at National Zoo, some were, I think, at the Smithsonian Research Facility, which is in Northern Virginia, and then some were with uh, this PhD researcher Jeffrey Burchard, I believe, from George Mason.
Oh,
So
okay.
they'd actually split up the clutch just in case something happened, in one location, they wouldn't lose them.
Okay, Pat.
So
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, And Jeffrey Burchard did a lot of studies on incubating eggs, like gas exchange and that kind of thing. So he was, he was doing some studies on the eggs that were in his possession.
So with all that stuff going on, at one point in time you had to step away from working at the National Zoo. So, what did you do when you started focusing more on your stock and how you want to do things?
Well, yeah. So when I became a teacher, I'm not sure if I volunteered down there anymore. I was just volunteering during the summers and a few times a week. But yeah, after I had that first litter in 95, 96, I bred that female again in 96, 97. And, and things just kind of took from there, I guess. Mainly local sales to just people like Danny Brado, whose name you may have heard of.
Yeah,
He's a
I
local
heard
guy
that
here in
name.
Maryland. Another guy, Tom Morello, who isn't doing chondros anymore, but he's local. And another guy named Jack Sadovnik, who was another Maryland guy. And I think he had something to do, this is be a Christian question, he had something to do with one of the blue lines that might have been the Skyline or something like that. He had something to do with one of these blue lines, I think, way back in the probably late 90s, I would say.
Jack Sadonic.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing snakes at all. He's still around, but we're Facebook friends, but he's been out of it for a while.
Hey, Keno, keep going. I gotta go get my dogs in the house. They're barking, but I can still
So
hear
the
you.
all right. So things kind of, you said things kind of took off like your second clutch. Your first clutch though, you said you went maternal on that because you really didn't have a choice.
Well, the first clutch, second clutch, and I believe the
Okay.
third clutch also went maternal. So yeah, so that blue female had 6 litters total, 3 of
Okay.
which were maternal, and at least one of those times back to back years, which I wouldn't do now knowing what I know. But I mean, I was telling somebody this not too long ago about how, I don't really know of any other females that had that kind of a production record, really.
Mhm.
6 litters is a lot. And her first litter was at she bred at 2.5 years old. When I got her from Trooper, she was a year and a half old, already eating small rats. He fed pretty heavy.
You said she was a year and a half old and she was eating small rats.
Yep. Yeah. I got the data cards,
Damn.
man.
And I like
Yeah.
to feed and I feed heavy, but damn.
Well, I mean, I think you need, like the right kind of animal. I mean, I think that
Yep.
bloodline, all those females, Joan Collins, Powder, mine, and I don't know if there were any other ones that came out of there directly. They were all big girls, they grew very quickly. So, like I said, you just don't hear that now. I mean, and I don't know if it's good or bad for the animal, but she lived a fairly long lifespan and had, many uh, pretty decent sized litters.
Okay. Um damn. So how'd you run the maternal setup the first time? You
Yeah,
don't have
so
no
basically I
incubator, so
picked it.
how'd you
Yeah, I
go
picked
run it?
Trooper's brain for that. I mean, I would have had no clue what to do, but he kind of guided me through that process. And, at the time I was using these 2x2 Nia de Shea cages, and I was running them with like a 75-watt Zoom Med infrared bulb hooked up to a microclimate, which is similar to the Helix. These were
Uh-huh.
like the old school
Thermostats.
proportional thermostats that Bob Clark
Yeah.
was selling. And I believe the company's in England, and they're still making them, I think. Although I don't think you can get them over here anymore. Um, in any case, so I kind of set that bulb, and the thing with the Neo de Shea cage is that they had this round screen top dead center. So it's kind of hard to set up sort of hot side, So I just sat it as far to one side as I could and put a nest box. In fact, I still have the actual nest box that, that she used and that Mr. Blue was born, hatched in. I actually sent
Wow.
pictures. I sent pictures of that to Bill, to kind of show him what I use, which is really just a Rubbermaid tote, one of the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And I put that on one side, and on the other side I had the heat light, and then I basically filled the other side with sphagnum moss, and it was sopping wet with a heat pad underneath of it to try to boost the humidity. Um, because living in Maryland in wintertime, you have forest air heat, so
Yeah.
as you know, it gets dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was primarily concerned about the keeping the humidity up, but then at the same time, you have to keep that um, substrate where the in the nest box dry. So and then keep temperatures in the low 80s. As a high, because the female will do the rest.
Okay. All right. Um, man, it's so interesting you had that set up. So another thing, I know you were saying how a lot of the founder females of these lines, they were known for having big size and laying big clutches. Like,
Well, that the powder line I know did. I don't know about some
okay.
of the other lines that they worked with. Because I know when we bred, Buddy Getzker and I bred my female to Daddy Pants, who was offspring from Old Yeller, which
Hmm.
was an iconic National Zoo Trooper Walsh animal. Um, I mean, one clutch she laid, it was the second to last one she had. She had 36 eggs. I think we only
Damn.
hatched out 24, and that was
Do,
artificially
He say
incubated.
only.
do,
He
do
say
you know what
only.
happened to the other ones?
The other,
The other ones that didn't make it.
the other,
Eggs, like the eggs that didn't hatch.
oh, they were just stillborn. Yeah, we couldn't really
Okay.
figure it out because we pulled them out, and at that point, Buddy Getzker, he had a form of scientific incubator, and he had the incubation regimen pretty much down. So we were real sure what happened there.
Okay. Did you see a larger hatch rate in the first three that she maternally incubated as opposed to the last three?
So the litter that Mr. Blue was hatched in, I believe, was 24 eggs, and I hatched 17. The second litter, I don't remember. I'd have to look back at the. I still have all the data cards from her, but I don't remember what the numbers were for that. Now, when we bred her after that, so the first breeding was with, I guess what became known as the legend male that produced Mr.
Okay.
Blue. The second litter was with a male that my nephew Sean owned. The third and fourth litters with her were with Mr. Blue, back, breeding Mr. Blue to her. Those litters were on the smaller side. I would say 17 or 18. Again, I have to look and see what they actually were. Well, hell, you can ask Bill because I sent him a PDF of the of her data cards. You
Yeah,
know.
Bill's stingy. He's not gonna show us.
Oh, he's not
Um,
going to share. Well, you guys have to give
he's
me your
not.
email because I sent
Nah,
him.
he'll
I,
show
I,
us. He'll show us.
I sent him. Yeah, I sent him some good stuff, man. I sent him. The data card for the blue female, which has all the litter she had. I also sent him the temperature data that I was uh, getting through the breeding, or not through the breeding,
Okay.
but through the maternal incubation. So,
Um,
Okay.
so I got two questions. Did you notice a difference in between the strength and size of the babies, or like if they were better feeders initially than the ones that were maternally incubated? And did you notice a difference in babies that the females produce litter after litter after litter?
The only tricky part about trying to come up with an answer with that is because the male wasn't the same every time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you had that variable. Um, I don't know. I've heard, people talk about thinking, and that maternally incubated babies might be stronger, might feed more readily. I mean, it makes logical sense, I guess, because they've done it for millions of years. But I don't know if I necessarily saw any correlation there.
Okay. How easy were these maternally incubated eggs? These babies that came from maternally incubated eggs. How easy were they
Well,
to establish?
well, see, and there's the other variable was that the first litter was my first litter of getting babies going. And as I did more litters, I got better at establishing babies. And the first litter kind of sucked. I mean, there were, I had 17 babies, and I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 fed for me right away. And then several of them were just couldn't get them to go. And I remember kind of being miserable about that. I didn't want to go in the reptile room. I was like, man, I don't even want to go in there and look at them. Yeah. So, and then, I was, hitting up Trooper for some advice, and he's like, look, man, they're reflex feeders. You sometimes just got to really piss them off. I mean, just really piss them off. So I started doing that. Maybe picked up 1 or 2 more feeders. He talked about one of Trooper's favorite scenting things was he would bring home a chick from the zoo, a live chick, kill it while the chick's still warm, open it up, and literally put the pinkies right in the blood, in the guts and everything of the chick, and that worked for him. I tried that; it never worked. What did
That's
work
what I
was,
said. But I
yeah.
put the chick in a food processor.
Well, yeah. Some people try pureeing things. Like I tried pureeing, like skinks, frogs, and then dipping the pinkies in. I had no luck with that. I mean, I
Tim
think
was
other
just
people have.
he was just a little badass kid. He liked to kill stuff for no reason. That's all Charlie did.
I didn't kill everything when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Just toads.
Yeah. So what did work for me was kind of pulling off the finer feathers in the neck and head region. And since I would thaw the pinkies out in water, I would stick the feathers one while they were still wet. And that actually was pretty successful. I think I wound up getting most of the other ones to feed in that way. And then a few litters down the road, I started using mouse tails, because I could always get them striking, but then it would bite, let go, bite, wrap, let go, bite, wrap. And so, mouse tails, you cut it right at the base of the tail, right where it connects to the body, and, maybe a 3/4 of an inch, an inch. And then you just kind of guide it as they start to strike. And if you hold it where the hairs are facing or kind of going away from the snake, they almost serve as like little barbs to kind of keep it lodged in their mouth. And I just got to the mindset that it's a smaller item. It might be a size of the pinkies that are freaking them out. So, and I also felt like, the tail is at least scent of the eventual food item you want to run with, right? So that seemed to work pretty well. But yeah, I mean, some of it was just, trial and error and learning. I mean, Buddy Buscemi came really good at feeding these things. I mean, probably better than I was at getting stubborn feeders, going. One of the other techniques I used, if I had like several of the runners, the so-called runners, is I would put like 5 shoe boxes out, and they all had lids on them, so I would put 5 shoe boxes out. I would get them stirred up, try to feed them. Once they start running, put the lid on, go to the next one, get them going, and I would just keep circling back. And what I found was the runners, you got to let them settle down again. So, but I didn't want to come and go in the room. I just figured, well, hell with it. I'll just try to make it, an assembly line and see if I can't, have any luck that way. So that worked out pretty well as well, especially with the runners, because you give them a little time to settle back down. You go back in and get them worked up again, and sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't.
That's interesting.
Okay.
I think that like from the sounds of it, some of the same techniques that you guys use with stubborn feeders, we're still using today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no finesse and no rhyme or reason and no magical tricks to it, I guess. Um, although I did learn something. So a couple years ago, a friend of mine that lives up in New York um, hatched out, well, actually maternally incubated, bred, maternally incubated, hatched out chondros, a pair, on exhibit at the Science Center in Ithaca, New York. First time I think that's ever been done to my knowledge, and actually raised the babies on exhibit in mass until they started eating one another. But
I was about
Um,
and
to
it was
ask, were
yeah,
they
and it was
raising
a big
together?
it was a big enclosure, and it didn't start for a while. And apparently,
Okay.
according to him, it was one or two individuals that um, were kind of, I guess, going after the others or open to eating, a sibling. Um, but it took several months, and apparently, according to him, they were somewhat easy to feed on the exhibit.
So how
And of
many
course,
of
it
them
was good for the
together did they
visitors.
have in the? How many together did they have in the same exhibit?
How many do you have? This was the second year. I want to say is probably like 13 or something. Anyway, the first year he
Damn,
had, yeah, the
13
first,
in the same exhibit.
yeah,
yeah, that's
well,
a
plus the
lot.
parents,
He said he was
plus the
feeding them
parents,
together. That's
yeah,
wild
plus
as
the
hell.
parents.
The
So the
parents didn't
first,
try to eat them at all.
no, parents never bothered him, but the first year he did it, he sent half the litter down to me to get started or help him get started. And that kind of reminded me why I got out of chondros because they were a pain in the ass. And actually learned something new actually for me and Bessel. He was telling me that he takes like bamboo skewer, right, and will put the like a pinky's head on it and use that to kind of steer into their mouths once they go striking after it. That way, it kind of gets lodged further in the back of their throat than if you're
Yeah,
just kind of holding it with forceps. So that actually worked out sometimes. That was pretty
you just
good.
rip the skewer, pop the skewer out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it just slides right out.
So how were you getting your females ready while you were maternally during maternal incubation? As far as
Just,
cycling, getting them ready for a breeding season, feeding them.
yeah, just I mean, feeding them. I mean, at the time, I was just feeding them based on. I mean, I think my big blue girl was eating like medium rats by that point. I mean,
Okay.
um, and so she just kind of put the weight back on and did her thing. And she was a good mom. I had a couple of animals that I intended to maternally incubate, and they would, lay the eggs outside the nest box, and then you'd have to, collect them and artificially incubate them at that point.
Why'd you say you wouldn't breed females back to back years, knowing what you know now?
Well, maternally,
Okay,
because
okay, all right,
yeah,
okay.
because it's an additional 2 months of time that they're not
Yeah,
feeding,
you're right.
and so they're pretty depleted when they come off of that. If
Okay.
consider the 2 months or whatever prior, where they're not feeding. I mean, it's 4 months that they're, off feed.
Maternal, yeah, for sure. Okay, I got
Yeah,
you.
that's a mean back to back maternal. I mean,
Yeah,
that
that
was,
would be rough.
yeah, yeah.
So how
But
did
like I said,
you
I just didn't know any better.
so how did you like decide your parents? Like did you have
Hmm.
any type of real guess about what you would get? Or because you said that there weren't really locales that everything was mutts, was it all just a surprise to you? Did Trooper give you any type of advice regarding that?
No, he didn't. Well, the one thing he did tell me was that over the years of his breeding, he liked the maroons, and he selectively sort of held back the darkest ones, many years. The first breeding I did, they were the only two chondros I had. Where Mr. Blue was born, and I had no idea what I was dealing with, and I'm nearly positive Trooper didn't either because I'm sure he wouldn't have given me that one, had he known. the potential in there. But he had, he had produced other cool things. I mean, at that point, he had, Old Yeller had produced that litter that had some phenomenal, animals out of that, including, the one that Buddy, named Daddy Pants.
Okay. Well,
Mm.
out of all the clutches that you have, hatched over the years, did you ever think to yourself where you said, I mean, because you had Mr. Blue, but did you have a certain look that you wanted to go for, or a line that you were trying to hit, or
Not really.
you just
I
want to
mean,
do it to do it?
well, I mean, we did have some things. I mean, obviously, once you produce a blue animal, you want to produce another one. And we produced one that was kind of close in, I think it was the first breeding of Mr. Blue back to mom. He wasn't quite as nice as Mr. Blue, but he was a little bit on the blue end of things. But then after that, we changed our focus to, sort of the tricolors, they called them, the Biak outcross type stuff. And so we bred my female to Daddy Pants. And that first time we bred them two together, that was probably my favorite litter. That threw some really, I mean, almost every baby that came out of there I thought was really cool.
Okay.
So how early on did you know that Mr. Blue was going to be what it was?
Not early enough, man, because there's a picture of me sitting behind a table with Mr. Blue sitting there for sale for $1,000. He wasn't blue at the time; he was still a baby, but
Right.
but he was a unique baby at the time. I mean, everybody sort of knew that because he was very dark, had very, very little markings whatsoever, and so. But I had no idea what it was going to turn into, and of course, I had other unique neonates years after that just turned out to be plain green. So, I'm not, I'm not sure if that was, a telltale sign or not, um, but yeah, so but $1,000, in hindsight, knowing what he turned into and how many litters he produced after, might seem like kind of crazy. And
No, $1,000 back then though was a lot of money though.
well, it was because
For
what had
chondro.
happened was when I bought those animals and then later bred them, and then produced the babies, and a year later started to sell them. That was well into the
They'll probably be like $7,000-8,000 these days.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, well, and also at that time
Like given
was well
inflation
into
and everything.
was well into the period of time when all these farm babies were coming in,
Yeah,
and people were selling these farm babies for $250. Where
yeah.
prior to that, the standard price for green trees was $750.
So
So that just destroyed the market.
I
Not
never
so
knew
much
that.
from, yeah, not so much for me because I wasn't breeding or offering anything for sale at the time. But yeah, so it was around, I want to say like 96, 97, where Gary Sipperly and Bob Clark, and there was a couple other people where down in Orlando, they had, and they were locality, and that became a big buzzword. And they were, but they were, ones that they would tell you they haven't even fed, for them. Like they never tried feeding them. They just got them
yeah,
over. They're just flipping them basically. And so, but that's still, anybody wanting to look into green trees are like, well,
hit
shit.
him with that joke.
Yeah, why should I pay $750 for this when I can get this for $250? And so a lot of people went that direction. So that, Trooper and
Yeah.
Eugene at that time, they were holding fast, but I think they dropped their price maybe $100 down to $650. So, that $1,000 for what became a Mr. Blue really was, like, I mean, people looked at that like, it was a local show too. So you rarely sell anything high
Yeah.
dollar at a local show. But even if it
That's
was a
true.
bigger show, they'd be like, yeah, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that was a lot of money back then. $1,000. I mean, yeah. But all in all, would you say that like by the time you said that you were hanging up the chondro reins, would you say that you had achieved what you wanted to achieve with breeding?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can say that from just the first litter alone, you know.
So the
Well,
first
I'm just
litter, I'm
saying, I
good.
mean, I just,
No,
um,
the first
I mean,
litter
I
had
couldn't have
legends in
asked,
it. So
I mean, I couldn't have asked for any more than that. I mean, that just, and also too, I kind of lucked out because, some of the people I sold to, um, really, their animals turned out really well. And, and they were kind of, hyping up all of it. So, that helped out a lot too. But, but yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, I mean, that the whole ending with the daddy pants thing, and I did some litters after that. I stumbled upon a really nice Maruki that a friend of Tony Nicolai in Florida, had brought in, and because that was kind of all the rage. Everybody wanted at that time, like it was around the mid, 2005, 2006. Everybody wanted, or seemingly wanted, either a super high white Aru, or they wanted like a Maruki type, quasi Australian, with the single white stripe down the back.
yeah,
And so, here came this one animal that was purportedly from, well, apparently Maruki's a port, not even a place where they actually get the animals, but it's in the southern, I guess, Indo region, or actually it's up
yeah.
in the mountains. But this thing was probably 75% full stripe. I mean, gorgeous yellow on the bottom. I mean, just a phenomenal. It's actually the only wild caught animal, the only wild caught chondro that I bought. And it was actually the most expensive one I ever bought at $2,500.
Damn, what year was that?
2000, I want to say 2004, probably.
Damn, you paid $2,500 back then.
Oh yeah, but people were dying
Oh,
for these like full stripe
I know
Maruki
them.
types.
I remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
yeah. So,
Because
but at that
05,
point, people were
04,
paying a
05,
lot of
06,
money for them. I mean, hell,
that that's when I was getting heavy in the green tree. So I
it,
remember the price was up for those. Yeah,
well, and even late in the late '90s, when the computer chondro and all that stuff, I
yeah.
mean, that drove up the market too. I mean, Greg Maxwell did a lot for driving the high end market. He bought up a
And the
lot
high
of,
yellows. And at first, before the
well,
blues, it was the high yellows that had the market going crazy.
yeah, there was the lemon trees.
Yep,
Yep,
it
that Gary
was.
Sipperly and a couple other people had. In fact, my nephew
Yep.
had
Tim Tremezzi.
lemon tree type Tim Tremezzi. Yep,
Yep.
and then there was uh, the Kofio Island ones,
Yeah, I
Canary
remember the coffee
chondros.
hours. That was coffee.
Yeah, they
That
were
was
in the
crazy,
early
boy.
2000s. Yep,
That was a craze. It
that
was like
definitely was
every
a
day.
craze. Yep.
Ah, those are the good old days.
Yeah, man. So, and again, everybody was still trying to work out, the whole, locality thing. And
Yep.
I mean, there for a short period of time, the chondro community, some of it sort of resembled like the old days with the gray band king snakes, where localities was a big deal. This one was collected off of Route 277. This is a Christmas
Wait, who
Mountain
else
one.
said? Somebody else was saying that. Who else?
Yeah,
Somebody else said that
Somebody
but
too.
that
else was
was,
talking about him.
Somebody
I
was on
forgot
yeah,
here
who it
saying
was.
that to the same
yep,
thing. You remember
yep.
that?
So, yeah, I
I
mean, so
remember it, but I
that was a
forget
big
who it
deal.
was.
Maybe that was Matt Morris or something.
It might have been Matt.
Yeah.
No, I
Yep,
think it was Kid. I think it was Kid Deal.
Ken, yeah.
Yeah, it might have been Ken Deal. Ken Deal or Matt Morris is
Yeah,
between
well, the
those two.
farm thing kind of kicked that off, and I think a lot of those came
Yeah.
from, Cameron Tepedalin by way of Vladimir
Yeah.
over in Indonesia, who had the farming operation going on there.
Yeah.
Um,
Rest in peace, Vlad.
yeah, man. Yep, that
Vlad was
was
the master breeder over
absolutely.
there. Man. It's like he just like it was just reading up on him, like he just knew when to put chondros together.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. He had a skill with that. Where I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, man. I mean, people say,
It's
legend
like
this,
son, you
legend
just
that.
know. You
Yeah, I said, I tell people I'm no legend at all, man. I just got lucky. I mean,
Hey,
Everything that I did was predicated on the hard work of Trooper and those before me. I just happened to be the lucky recipient of 2 animals. It wasn't like I started a project and worked my way up to it. I mean, I bought
Yeah.
2 animals, right? Or actually bought one and was gifted one. You know what I mean? So,
Hey
and they
Tim,
were the only 2 I had.
Hey Tim, somebody wants to come in and ask you a question.
Oh boy,
I knew it was going to be Patrick.
Patrick, what's up, man?
What up, Pat?
What up,
What's
Pat?
going on?
Pat, you let your hair grow out. What's going on,
I
man?
know. You see how long I got fucking dreadlocks right now, bro.
I was going to say, man, you start dreading that up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's talking. I'm getting all nostalgic with all the skater talk. I might have to sport some dreadlocks for a while and start skating again.
There you
might
go.
have to. I'll loan you a couple.
Look, man, loan me a couple dreadlocks
Hell no.
to get me by until mine grow in.
Yeah.
What they call those extensions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
With the extensions, right?
Fuck yeah. Yeah.
Tip to what it is. Oh shit.
Fresh off of Pat's scalp.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Look, I don't know how many of the pictures are floating around the internet, but I had long hair most of my life, so and I just don't do anything in between. It's either real short or real long.
But I can't
Because I was,
imagine you with
you know,
long hair, Pat.
man, I haven't had long hair in a long time. I cut it off in 2012, but it literally past my ass when I cut it off.
Nice.
I can believe that.
Yeah,
I can believe
skater kid.
And you have the ZZ Top beard to go with it?
No, I can't grow a
No?
beard to save my fucking life.
Every girl's crazy about a sharp dress, man.
There you go.
My little brother Bobby, I have 2 brothers, and one of them got all of the facial hair genes and left me and my other brother with just this. That's all we got.
This is
Well,
not.
you might not have too much to manscape
He
then
got,
there, huh?
Yeah,
he got a
yeah.
leprechaun beard.
We said he got leprechaun beard.
That's funny.
Uh,
So I am sitting here geeking the fuck out on all this Chondro stuff. It's
man,
that's
Pat,
what we
man,
want.
tell
That's
me
what we
about
want.
it, man.
yeah, it's good stuff. I like my timing was real good on it too because I was running a bunch of errands that took longer than I expected, and I got in my Jeep to head home, and the show was like starting right when I got in the Jeep. It was perfect, and so I'm sitting here taking notes and stuff too, so that I can keep my thoughts organized. But I'm not exactly a very organized person. The only other place that I take notes is all these fucking baby chondro feeding cards, and
There you go.
about the only other thing that's organized in my life. Anyways, so as much as I'm interested in chondro history, I had never heard that story about you and Sean and Christian going to find Trooper and the Pete Call stuff and all of that is amazing. Pete Call is just, he's one of the original large scale snake breeders.
Yep.
I think this record has been broken, but he used to be in the Guinness Book for having paid the most money for a snake in history.
Yeah, 25 grand, yep.
I think it was 75 grand, man.
No, it's 25 for the albino.
Was it 25? It was albino, like an import albino retic.
Oh, well, maybe that
boa.
one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking the original albino male.
Albino boa. No, I think he ended up spending a bunch of money on an albino retic later than that.
He did.
Although Bob was the first one to actually produce those, though, the albino retics. But anyway, I can tell you a really quick funny story about that. The first time Bob Clark produced albino retics, he brought one to a show. I don't know, 95 5 or something like that. I don't remember. And I knew Bob fairly well at that point. And I came up and I saw this albino retic, and it had a $15,000 price tag on it. And I was like, "Oh my God, Bob, can I please touch this thing?" Can you hear me?
Yeah, you stalled out.
Okay. I saw this retic, and I said, I was like, "Bob, can I touch that retic?" And he said, "Oh yeah, for sure." And he picks up the cup and he puts it towards me, and he turns where I can see the label better. He goes, "For $15,000, you can touch it all you want."
Petty.
Like,
Petty as
thanks a
hell.
lot. Thanks a lot, Bob Clark. So, but yeah, man, that story was incredible. I had no idea that you guys volunteered for Pete Call. The going to track down Trooper at the zoo story is awesome because back then
chasing down Trooper.
Yeah, just lurking in these chondros.
Yeah, we were
around.
definitely stalking them, man. So
I mean, that's the way we had to do that shit back in the day. And the zoo guys were the only way. Like before we had the internet, you had the library and you had guys that worked at the zoo. Like there wasn't really anywhere else to get information from. Which the whole internet thing is something I'm going to touch back on here in a minute. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you for sharing that story because it's fucking incredible. It just reminded me of me creeping on the zoo guys back in the day too. So
Pat is about to cry a happy tear.
I legit got emotional listening to that story. No joke. I really did.
That's what we want in the bar. That's what we want. That's
yeah. And as a side note, before I get into the Chondro stuff, let your soul go. I also want to mention this too before we get back into the Chondros. I've gotten to interact with Komodo dragons a couple of times over the last couple of years, and I think about Trooper when I think about Komodo dragons because he was the guy that did it, you know. And man, after these experiences that I've had, like I've seriously thought about selling off all of my shit and trying to get Komodo dragons. Like that's they're the most amazing animals in the world. Like there's not really anything cooler than that. They're fucking. It's just they're unbelievable.
You've been interacting with some babies. With some babies.
No. I'll send you some pictures.
No, this is what Pat's gonna do. He's gonna sell off all his snakes and his kettlebells. He's gonna work out with the Komodo dragon. He's gonna throw them around between his legs and everything.
Well, you know, apparently there's been some parthenogenic. There's been some parthenogenic Komodos, and apparently they're almost like dwarf Komodos. They don't grow as big.
Really? The one of the Komodos that I interacted with was part though. And I don't know how big he's gonna get, but he's pretty good size now. But I nowhere near as big as you know some of the ones that he's not 12 feet long or anything like that. So
now I want to see dragon too.
Yeah. I'll send you some pictures. The first thing that I have written down here. When y'all were talking about the original blue female and having 6 clutches, I just wanted to mention a couple of other females because it is super rare to have a female that's that prolific. I know you know this, the Burke Arfok female that Jason Stevens had at his place.
Like
She had 6 clutches, 97 babies, 6 clutches, and they were all consecutive. See, she had 6 consecutive clutches and 96 babies, and she was 97 babies.
So they were all in back-to-back years?
Yes, those were consecutive. And her last,
Damn.
and they were all big clutches except for the last one. The last one was smaller, and I want to
Well,
say had a
the last one and
lower.
the first one. The last one and the first one.
Oh well, yeah, the first one too. So and that's in my
All the other
opinion,
ones was like 27, 28, 32,
24s
33.
and 21s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if she had any 30s. I think she had some that the total ova maybe with slugs were approaching 30, but I
Yeah.
think the
But it was
biggest
like the
hatch
high
rate that
20s
he
hatch
got.
rate.
Yeah, I think the biggest hatch rate he got was 24, 25, something like that, as far as healthy babies. And she had 5 in that first one, and I don't know 8 or something in the last one, and that's just in my opinion, that's her kind of ramping up and then being in her prime and then falling off.
Yeah.
Which, if you're not doing consecutive pairings, you can stretch a female out a lot further than that if she's a healthy animal.
Yeah.
But and also I could be getting this ID wrong, but SH one oh man 10111 or something like that. She was the Blue Max Jarvis female that produced a bunch of babies for Rico, a whole bunch of clutches. I can't even remember how many times she went, but that's the one that she's the mother of oh 05, 079, and just a lot of other amazing animals. So that was another really prolific female. But the fact that I can like list the few that did that, and then of course
It's
Rob
only a
Worrell has
couple.
some. Yeah, Rob Worrell has some claims, but we don't know. I don't. I can't. I'm not sure how accurate all of that
Shout out
stuff
to old man Rob Worrell,
is.
just out here being crazy on the
Yeah, I
keyboard.
think some of them claims was a little bit on the outrageous side, but I think some of them was some had a little bit of validity, but some of them had a little helium. I'm gonna say a little helium
Well,
in it.
yeah, that's a good word for it. It's I try to use
But damn,
euphemisms like that too, and
but
not
he
talk
said
too
You could
much shit.
he
you could
said that
just talk about
female
something
had,
else instead of Rob.
but he said that female had 3 straight back to back maternal clutches. That's crazy.
Yeah, that it is.
Yeah,
But here's the
he said that.
here's the thing about that. That's all based on fat stores, right? If you had a female that's eating small rats at 18 months old, she's gonna have some pretty legit
Hey,
fat stores.
he said a year
No
old
joke.
he was eating small rat.
Yeah, and
Oh shit.
Greg Stevens bred 2 female sibling Denver zoo line animals that were 30 months old when he bred them. I can't remember if they both went, but he did that
Thanks,
too.
Mike.
But he
Thanks, Mike.
he also said he wouldn't do it again.
Huh.
So let's see. Oh, so I did have a couple of questions. This is one thing that you guys started to touch on when you were asking, about the stuff that he produced, and when you knew you had something special or whatever. What was the point where you guys like? Were you the ones that started calling it a blue line, or was there a point when you realized, hey, we have a bloodline that will consistently produce blue animals?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know where that came from. I know
That was a
some of
good
that
one, Paul.
probably stemmed from the fact that my female came from the same litter as Joan Collins,
Mm-hmm.
Powder, and they were notorious blue females that that came from a strong blue litter. But I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know where that actually came from, because personally, I never really considered my original breeding to be a blue line. I mean, I had no idea what the hell
Yeah,
I was working with.
Right.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I produced a blue male, and none of the others were nowhere near that blue. There were some that had varying different blue highlights. Some of
yeah,
them were,
yeah.
some of them had, some high black and this, that, and the other. But yeah, so
Well,
I don't know where that came from.
Dad had some really nice blue markings too. He was what,
Right.
2793, right? Was
Right. So he
legend.
was a sibling to the computer chondro. He was out of
Yeah.
that bloodline. So
Yep.
that was another,
Yeah.
legendary breeding that Trooper had done,
Yeah.
and that's again why I say, I was just a lucky bum. There was no planning on my part. I just bought something and he gave me one, and that somebody was smiling on me.
Yeah. The crazy thing about that, and the thing that I love so much is that the Walsh Blue line and the Calico line, which people don't always attribute to Trooper because of the work that Greg really did to like expand that. But those are the two most desirable, like across the board desirable chondro bloodlines ever anywhere. Right. They are also both making a really strong resurgence with all the work that Christian and John Irby and Dave D are doing. Right. And there's other guys as well, but stuff, those three guys are doing it. And it's fucking insane that all came from.
Was hanging on to stuff too.
Yes, yeah, they're because Splash has been extremely prolific for them. So yeah, there's other people and other guys doing stuff with the blue line, but it's crazy to me that all of that stemmed from one pairing. That one clutch that produced the legend in computer chondro and all those other animals. Like that's the base for all of that stuff, which was just that
computer chondro was a calico. I mean, they just changed the name, so
that's
but it's also crazy to me that how back then you had more crazy females popping out as opposed to now you mostly got the crazy phenotype pops out in the male.
Yeah.
But y'all had a lot of females, and it was female after female. It wasn't just one every now and then.
Well, my female was green. She turned blue after her first litter or two.
Yeah, so that was going to be that. That was going to be my next question. Was at what point?
Blue.
Yeah, hormonal blue.
Okay, all right.
But you want to produce blue chondros, you got to drink blue gin. That's the way it works.
I definitely thought that was rough.
Nah, blue coat, man. Philly gin.
That's cool. As long as you ain't Pinnacle. Anything but Pinnacle.
Hey, man, don't act like you ain't drink Pinnacle when you was young.
I did, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
Did you drink that?
Yeah, did you wear your hat?
Back then, we were drinking anything, man. Back then, I was working. Back in the 80s, working with a guy at the Hilton, man. He turned me on to, Thunderbird and Richard's Wild Irish Rose. All that good stuff.
That's what your uncle. That's what your uncle in the family that nobody likes. Drinks fucking Thunderbird.
Some old English 800.
Not the old the Thunderbird.
And get some malt liquor, right?
Is this like
y'all drink Mad Dog together in parking lots?
I feel like we just listed the top. We're doing the top 5 homeless wino drinks in the United States.
Hey man,
or poor high school kids, one or the other.
Hey man, sometimes
$10
in your pocket and you looking for a good time.
Well, and when you're broke high school kid, who's buying the liquor for you?
Well, see, that's where my age shows up, right? Because I'm 60, so I was legal at 18.
Oh yeah.
So I was a senior and able to buy, So, and then they switched to the 21 that next year.
Irish Rose, they used to make you want to fight people, didn't it, Tim?
Yeah.
You said yes.
That ain't nothing to play with.
So I got a Mad Dog story. So when my dad was in the Army in the 70s, so my dad and his homeboy, they used to take Mad Dog and they used to put it in the sun in the Georgia heat, and they would sit it in the windowsill. And if you leave it in the windowsill for a couple days, it turns into a psychedelic. And they would be tripping off of sun-turned Mad Dog.
This is doing jail, man. This is who's in jail.
This is 70s Army stories. This is my
There you go.
story.
Hey, you got to be careful saying that shit on the internet. It's going to be a TikTok challenge next week.
For real. Wow, Irish Rose in the sunlight.
Yeah, a bunch of fucking 16-year-olds tripping balls on fucking fermented Mad Dog.
Yeah, man.
Double fermented, man.
Yeah, double fermented, sunlight
With
treated.
formaldehyde in it. It's got PCP in it.
Jesus. Man, it's funny. I gotta clown on y'all just a little bit because he just mentioned being 60, but just like some of the things that have been said so far in this, like when y'all didn't know that they had plastic shoe boxes back then, like we were talking about the 1930s or some shit.
That's right. He was like, "Is that a cardboard shoebox?"
Listen,
I
remember when I was a kid. I asked my dad, but that was more than 50s. I was just like, so what y'all get color TV? He was just like, I don't know, like the 60s or some shit. I was like, so the world was just like without color into the 60s? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
You petty just like my son. My son be asking shit like that. He be like, so he be asking us about the big back TVs. Like, oh, so y'all TVs was real huge in the back? Like, yes, it was.
He's like, that's crazy.
He asked me, what's a home telephone? I was like, oh.
I mean, we've grown up in the best of times, right? Because I mean, we've seen all this stuff, and we lived with corded phones and
dial up, dial up internet,
dial up. Yep. AOL still around, man.
I had a conversation with my homeboy, and I was like, hey, man, when the internet first came out, like the only people that had internet was like middle-aged dudes. And that's why porn was such a big thing on the internet back then. Like, that's why. And like everybody had that friend who's like, dad would just lock himself in the room.
Expand, Tim. What you know about this, Tim?
I know everything, man. I was on it.
Tim was in there speculating.
Hey man, I don't leave any stones unturned,
You started to sound like your friend James.
Oh no, James is next level.
James get wet.
Is he on there? Does he put anything in the chat? Because I don't see anything on the chat.
I haven't seen. Listen,
know.
James is probably laid out blottoed right now. I don't know.
Hey, Stovepipe, are you out there?
Hey, look.
That's his nickname, by the way, Stovepipe.
Not the Stovepipe.
What does that mean?
Oh, that's a whole nother story for another episode.
Man, look.
I was on the phone with James today for well over an hour.
Yeah, he'll talk to you.
Yeah, I talk back.
James,
James crazy, man. Shout out to James.
Shout out to James. I have a box coming from James in the morning.
Oh, good deal.
Yeah, it's probably not what y'all think it is, but it's I'm excited.
Is it one of the scrubs?
Yeah, I got
one of the scrubs.
Scrub. Yes,
nice.
Sir.
Man, they're nice. That was a great breeding he did, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, I have an unrelated one. There have been the first 2 clutches of Highland Scrubs ever produced in the United States, both this year, and I've got a pair coming, one from each clutch.
Yeah, Stephen Cush had the other one, correct?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I just shipped out a big old barneck today that was wild caught, but as of next week, I will have all of my collection will be U.S. captive bred scrubs, and then I've got I do have one import that's over here on loan from Brian Fisher, but it's going to be awesome to have a bunch of young captive bred scrubs to raise up. But yeah, James is a good dude, man. That dude has had some of the most amazing chondros ever.
He has. He truly has.
Brought up Gary Sipperly earlier, and we were talking about tubs back then. Gary is kind of attributed to being like one of the first guys to do like legit rack systems back in the day. And he also had he had a tricolor line that had his name attached to it back then as well.
That's right.
And they were some spectacular animals. He produced some animals that were essentially super high yellow with badass blue dorsal markings. It was really awesome.
You know who else had a good line like that back then was because I had got an animal from him. He was up in Ohio. Winslow Murdoch.
I don't know him.
Yeah. He had
That's
some cool stuff.
I'll have to look into that. I've got some archives. I'm gonna hit you up later, Tim, so I can get you to send me the files that y'all were talking about earlier, because I have some archives that Matt Morris got together for me, and he would love for me to add that stuff to it.
Yep. Well, and of course, Bill and I were talking about this the other night, but and I don't know where Buddy's website is anymore, but I had scanned a whole bunch of stuff for Buddy Buscemi put up on his, I guess, his resources on his website. It's a bunch of papers that Trooper published, and
awesome.
A bunch of magazine scans too from the 90s with all different green tree articles. But I have them all PDF, so if you guys can't find them or would rather just have them emailed, let me know. Yeah,
I'll definitely do that. I love looking at all that stuff, man, because I grew up, I was born in '80, so that's all we had was the magazines and before that the books at the library and stuff. But I used to love getting my Reptiles magazine and running to the mailbox for my Glades Herp and Tom Crutchfield price list and all
I still
that
have
stuff.
A few of those, man. Yep.
Yeah, that neon green shit in my mailbox. What I was
Glades Herp.
Yeah, man. And we had the internet in the 90s too. We had CompuServe.
CompuServe, well, Netscape.
There was a reptile forum on CompuServe, and it was, and Dick Bartlett was on there. And man, when 14-year-old me thought it was the fucking coolest thing ever that I could get on my computer and talk to Dick Bartlett, exchange messages with Dick Bartlett in a forum. I thought that was amazing. And that's another thing that I have written down here, talking about the internet sales versus show sales and pricing. You had mentioned the cheap farm bred babies kind of having a negative impact on the market. And that's what the awesome thing about being able to do this on the internet is that now we're finally able to have people that are educated in the difference between those animals and make the choice to go with the expensive captive bred stuff. Even though the imports aren't anywhere near as cheap as they used to be. But we used to experience that at shows a whole lot. It's a totally different thing when the person is there at the show and they see the same snake on two different tables with two completely different price tags. I used to, speaking of Glades Herp and in this exact situation, I used to go to the Venomous show in San Antonio, and Jim Campbell would be there with these captive bred eyelash vipers that he produced. And he went through all the pain in the ass stuff to get them established. And these are big, fat babies that are eating full sight feeding on full pinkies. And they were, $250, $400 if they were tigers or whatever. And people would look at his table, and then they go over to Glades Herp, and just to save $50, they'd buy a fresh born baby from a wild caught female that was small enough to be housed in the deli cup and had never had a meal in its life to save $50. And you saw that all the time. And I was at a show once, and Jim didn't sell it's a Venomous show. He did not sell one single snake because people were buying the cheap shit on the other side of the room. That's actually the same show, maybe even the exact same show, not just the same, might have been that exact show where I saw Sony and Ken with the first Chondro pedigree that I had ever seen for their high yellow stuff. And I know I told this story when we were all on the other day, but I just remember seeing those chondros for $750 and thinking, who in the fuck is going to pay $750 for a green tree python? And but that was kind of the $750 was kind of the standard rate for
Yeah, it was the benchmark then. Yep.
Yeah.
just about everything.
Shout out to Ken, because I see Ken with pedigrees for chondros and no chondros for sale. He just had them out. Just and Matt Morris was just like, "Why did you bring
that?
Because he still has all that stuff actually printed on actual paper.
It was on pieces of paper, like he was handing out, like, you know, come join this club type of pamphlets and shit. But he still had it out, and I was just like, "So, Art, do you have chondros for sale?" Matt was just like, "He has no chondros for sale."
That's good though.
Okay.
That's good though. You need people like that.
Yeah, we still need it.
Cause me, look, my dumb ass I walk past this table and grab like two of them. Just
yeah. Yeah. I have lots of pictures of paper pedigrees saved on my phone. So Tim, did you sell Mr. Blue directly to John?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that either. I didn't know if he had got it from somebody else or direct.
John Holland.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
John Holland.
And there's kind of an interesting story there too. So I had a sale for him lined up prior to that. And the reason why I was looking to sell him was because my fiance at the time and I were trying to save for a house, and we saw this animal as a way to help us sort of, you know, get some more money together. So Tony Nicolai had been contacted by this guy out in the Philippines. I believe his name was Edwin, and he was going to buy Mr. Blue. And I remember, you know, telling Tony, "Well, that's cool. I'll do it." You know, this is before John even, you know, we even talked, you know, had the conversation about it. And you know, a couple of months had gone past, and I called Tony. I'm like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" He goes, "I haven't heard back from Edwin. He definitely wants it, but we're still waiting on, I don't know, money or something." And I said, "Well, look, how about if I send it? If the deal's done, you send me the money," because apparently he'd send him the money. I said, "You send me the money, I'll send you a snake. And that way it's out of my hands," because he was selling him some other stuff. And Tony was like, "Oh, no, I don't want it, you know, because if it dies or something." And I'm like, "All right, but somebody else gives me another offer. You know what I mean? It's that
You said I ain't got no money in my hands.
It's going to come off the table, right?" So, that's actually what wound up happening. You know, is that, you know, it just didn't come through, and so you know, I backed out of that deal, and then John, you know, agreed to buy it with, you know, with the agreement to breed him back to the female a couple of years.
How much did John jump for her, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, 3,000 plus
it?
2 years breeding rights.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was in 98.
Okay.
So $3,000 for a chondro was.
I thought you were hit him for about 30 bands or something.
Shit, I mean, back then, I mean, still, it was, you know, still lean times.
Have you seen inflation? It might have been 30 bands. It might have been 30 bands.
Say 98, 99, it might have been.
Is with inflation right now.
No, but it was snakes back then selling for that back then too. So
I mean, I probably were.
I'm glad. Yeah. I mean, look, when I remember in 2005, I was on Pete's website, because what Pete did was start producing piebalds and keep all of them, and kept producing more and more piebalds. I got on Pete Call's website in 2005 in the summer, and he had 99 piebalds available, and they were marked at $7,000 to $10,000 a piece based on the amount of white, which is not genetically heritable to my knowledge, or at least they didn't think it was back then. And so it's just visual that you were paying for as far as the amount of white. And
I
I
like
could
how
be
you
wrong.
you
I
judge
don't.
snake metrics. I like how
And
you judge that.
and
It's not worth that much.
and hey, look, and I could be wrong because I don't follow the ball python morph stuff. I'm not sure if y'all are aware that I don't give a fuck about any of that, but I don't. And
Don't hurt people's feelings. Stop being like that.
I was
I'm right there
intentionally
with you,
trying to hurt
Patrick.
some feelings with that statement. So I got on his site. He's got 99 pieballs available for
I
$7,000
like
to
how he
$10,000 a
I like how
piece.
he flooded the market all at once, though. I like that.
And
That
yeah,
was pretty. That
yeah.
was pretty G of him.
So a
Well,
month later, 1 month later, I get on his site and he has 49 available. So in a month, well, I don't know. Maybe he
50
didn't
was
sell. He
sold.
didn't.
Damn.
Yeah, didn't sell them all at full price. Maybe he traded some off. Maybe he gave some homeboy hookups. But he moved 50 pieballs in a month that were marked at $7,000 to $10,000 a piece.
oh, he was doing that with the albino boas when they were $10,000 a piece,
Yeah,
and both he and Ralph Davis, at the peak of
yeah.
that ball python thing that they kind
I
of
remember Ralph Davis, man. I
helped
want to talk to
create.
Ralph Davis.
They were already 3 or 4 other morphs in the making that no
Oh
one
yeah,
even knew about.
yeah,
So they were always at the peak of the wave. You know what I mean? Like what
Ralph
you saw
Davis
that they had
always say
available was
Ralph
like,
Davis he was ahead of
yeah,
his time.
by the time they released things to the public, they had an army of those things,
yeah.
and they already had 3 or 4 or 5 other projects already in the works. So, they were
When he
working it for
was
quite a while.
That's
when he was
crazy. They
letting
should
all
put
of
Pete
those
in charge
go,
of morph market.
when he was letting all those pieballs go, he was already hatching lavender albino pieds.
Right. Yeah.
When he was letting all those go. And from what I understand, Ralph Davis owned a construction company,
Yep.
and Pete had Ralph build his new facility for him and paid him a good chunk of it in designer ball pythons, and that's how Ralph got into the game.
That's exactly right.
Oh,
So I'm glad that you told us that story about Mr. Blue almost selling to somebody in the Philippines. Because can you imagine the difference in the landscape of blue chondros in the United States if
bruh, how
that
that would have
had actually happened?
completely tilted the
Yeah.
blue line.
Yeah, yeah, it totally changed everything. And the Mr. Blue Carolina pairing is the one that a lot of people consider to be kind of the pivotal moment in blue chondros and the Walsh blue stuff. I want to know a little more about. Well, I feel like I had another question about. Oh, so we were talking about the 6 clutches that the original blue female produced, but did you have other females that were producing for you too through that time? Like do you remember how many clutches you had total?
No, I mean, I did have a couple other females. In fact, I had a really nice, snowflake female. And Sean had a snowflake male. We produced some nice babies with those. That Brooke Bernston bought a couple from us. But they were really nice. They were, kind of green chondros, but they had these big white, blotches all over them, and they could have been white or yellow. Some of them were yellow. I had a couple of other bloodlines that were, I mean, they came from Eugene or Trooper, but they were more or less nondescript, just run of the mill, I guess, type chondros. I did breed the blue or the legend male to one of the females. I'd have to look at her lineage, but she didn't really have anything like as strong. Like when you look at like Powder's, background, there's a couple of the inbreedings with the Alzulich line. There's, was it the Tom Robertson? I don't know if the Switex in that one are the males, but there were a couple of repeat breedings of things that were. I mean, I guess the Alzulich, that one blue one he had, 14 or 15. I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah,
that shows up a lot in that bloodline.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, and that's kind of like everybody calls it the Walsh line, even though like there's obviously like it started with the Zulich animals is really where a lot of that blue came from.
Yeah, it
And
seemed to, but if you go back to some of the other stuff, like for example, I don't know if you remember the two-part article, Emeralds in the Forest or whatever. It was an article Carl Switek wrote for Reptiles, where he
yes,
talked about that first female he brought over that was in the bamboo.
yeah, I
And
have a copy of that issue.
yeah, and she had some strong blue highlights. So I don't
Yeah,
know, like there's no pictures.
Let's see,
There's
grab
not,
it.
yeah,
yeah,
she was
she
trying
would
to
grab it.
grab it. Yep.
Okay.
And there's not a lot of pictures of other founder stock from that bloodline.
Yeah,
You know,
yep,
there's a
yeah. And
couple of very fuzzy pictures of Al's blue animal, but that's it that I've
that's it.
seen
That's
of.
all that's the only thing I've seen too is one or two terrible pictures of the one animal from Al.
Yep.
And the you bringing up the snowflake thing kind of ties in because I wanted to talk about the daddy pants stuff, but the you said that Brooke bought a couple animals, so I'm assuming that one of those animals was his female snowflake that he
Hmm.
then loaned back to Sean and
That's
Christian,
right. He did.
um,
Yeah.
and they bred her to Crazy.
That's right.
And Crazy was the Blue Deuce sibling from the Daddy Pants to the Blue Female Clutch.
Female. That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. And so, and that, the Crazy Snowflake Clutch was
Oh, that
fucking
was,
crazy.
yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember if Snowflake was the only one that had the phenotype from the parents? Or if there was others that inherited those white
Yeah,
flowers?
that's a good question. I don't
Mm.
remember. Yeah, I don't
It's
remember much about how the others turned out.
it's funny because we strive to produce all of these different crazy phenotypes. That's the one that's the hardest to reproduce, is white flowers. That's the
The flowered
rarest.
one.
Yeah, that's the rarest extreme phenotype in chondros is big white
And the
flowers.
male, so the female of mine I produced,
Uh-huh.
um, and I want to say that she came from my blue female, and I can't remember who the sire was. But then Sean's male was a Cyperly animal that had the
Nice.
flowers. Yeah,
I had seen some other Cyperly animals with some flowers on
yeah.
them, and it's such a cool trait because if you add that to an animal that's even to a solid green animal, it looks badass. But an animal
Hmm.
that already has some other cool features, it just steps it up so
Right.
much. It's just such a cool phenotype. Um, so when you said that the daddy pants clutch was that just a one time thing?
So we did two times. The first one was the only real productive one. The
Okay.
second time we bred was her final litter,
Uh,
and she was struggling to get the eggs out. And I think there was only a couple of babies that actually survived that.
gotcha.
And then she
Gotcha.
passed shortly thereafter.
Okay. And that was actually going to be my next question was how long she lasted after that last one.
Yeah,
Um,
I can. Um, she passed away. I'm looking at the email I sent to Bill. I've got the data card in there.
uh,
She passed away February 21st of what year was that? 2005.
um, what about that clutch? You said that you started like after the cool blue stuff that you kind of really started
Actually, she
getting into
had
the thing.
actually she had 19 fertile eggs, 6 slugs, but I know only a few survived from there.
Interesting.
And she had slight oviduct prolapse.
Mm.
Um,
How old was she?
and she was still had some retained eggs. At that point, so 2005, she was hatched out in April of '93, so a
She's 12 years old.
little over 12 years old, I guess.
Mhm.
And she was a
Um,
9.8 gram brown baby.
What did you like so much about the daddy pants clutches? You said that started becoming kind of more of an interest for you, that you really liked those. Was it right from the bat, the
Well,
neonate colors, or was it as they were starting to change?
no, so Old Yeller came from, I mean, Daddy Pants came from Old Yeller.
Oh, yellow. Hmm.
And so back when I was volunteering at the zoo, another keeper there, this guy Brian Shipley, and I took pictures of some things behind Trooper's line, and um, several of these animals were just amazing, sort of, I guess, in a sense, tricolor type animals, and
Hmm.
they all tied back to this breeding of Old Yeller with this wild caught Biak. And
Mm.
That
so
Biak
then,
blood.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a Biak outcross. And so
And
Trooper
all these
actually
animals
owned,
were from maroon babies.
I'm pretty sure that the wild caught female definitely looked like a maroon, would have been a maroon baby, I think.
No,
Um,
I'm talking about all the tricolors that had you
no, they
that basically
weren't
got you turned
actually.
on to
Yeah,
it.
they weren't. Um, I'd have
Mm.
to go back and look. Some of them were yellow.
Okay.
Um, but it was just a crazy litter that had a whole bunch of really cool stuff in it. And out of that was the one they called Daddy Pants. And
He was a
so,
badass snake.
yeah, he was a
Why'd you name
badass
it
snake.
Daddy Pants? Why'd you name it
So,
Daddy Pants?
all right. So, um, back then, Trooper was doing his thing. There was this guy named Buddy Getzker who got into, well, he got into emerald tree boas first. Built up this phenomenal collection of Amazon basin emeralds, and then started getting into chondros. And then I turned him on to Trooper, and because Buddy had some money, owned his own restaurant, he worked out this deal with um, Trooper. He paid, I don't remember, maybe 12 grand plus like a $10,000 computer at the time, right? And something else that was in the deal, or several other things or whatever for this animal. And
That's when
at
they
that
call it a computer
time,
conjure, right?
well, no. So at the time, this is when Austin Powers movie came out,
What?
and so and that's where the whole daddy pants, because there's a scene in Austin Powers, the second one, where he's like, you wear the daddy pants, right? To mini me, right, or something like that. And so Buddy and I were watching that, and so I don't know, somehow it came up. He was like, I shall call him Daddy Pants, and so that's where it came. That's where it came to be. It came from that movie.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was just kind of curious, and that was kind of my thought, is that you were interested in the kind of like wild card range of looks that you get with those crazy Biak
well, that's the
outcrosses. And
thing. Yeah, at that point, the Biak outcross thing became a thing, right? So,
yeah,
and actually, I was more interested in that than I was really like the blue line stuff.
yeah,
I mean, it's going to sound crass to say, but I was like, well, I've been there, done that, But then,
for sure.
like the Daddy Pants blue litter that we produced the first time produced some phenomenal animals. Crazy was one of them, and there were
Hmm.
many others just like them and different.
Yes,
I mean, there were so
yes.
many high-end animals that came out of there. Where with my legend blue female litter, there was Mr. Blue. There were some other ones that were decent, and of course the
Hmm.
genetics were there. But the ones that were smoking phenotypically out of a complete litter was that Daddy Pants Blue. That was a hot
Yeah,
litter. I mean, that was
yeah.
probably the best one I ever produced,
And
in my
and
opinion.
I mean, even Blue Deuce, who was just a nice blue-ish animal.
Hmm.
He wasn't anything spectacular, but he was super prolific and produced a
Yes.
bunch
Okay.
of insane
Oh God,
offspring.
his
I
name's
mean,
on
him
a
and
lot of things.
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, Blue
I think
Deuce on
Blue
a lot of
Deuce.
stuff.
I think Blue Deuce and Mr. Blue both sired somewhere in the neighborhood of like 120 or 130 offspring or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then Crazy was pretty prolific too, and his phenotype carried through.
Yep.
One of my favorite designers ever is an animal that Dave D still has. That's I guess a crazy snowflake. She's
Mm.
yeah, SSBB1111.
And that was a crazy litter.
Yeah, yeah, and she's all black, white, and blue. Black head, blue animal with a black head and a black wash, and completely white otherwise. And you could say that there's a hormonal influence there, but Crazy was a male, and he looked like that too. So, um, I um, I know. I think we're getting kind of close to time, and I've kind of hijacked this fucking podcast a little bit here.
It's okay. We needed
So
somebody to
Nah.
come in with no hair and a tight shirt to replace Chuck. So we got you. So listen, listen.
Pat, you got
It's
some couple more
okay.
questions. Go ahead.
It's,
Go ahead and ask
it's
them, man.
okay if we go over time if Tim wants to stay on. That's perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, I'm good with it. We can always do a
All right,
round two
listen.
as well, So
Listen, we can
yeah,
stay on for a while. We can do a round two.
Well,
It's
shout
whatever
out
you
to the
guys want to do.
humping dog praying mantis that is Patrick. That's what I'm
Yeah,
talking about,
man.
baby.
Listen, man. We
With the
appreciate. Hey, Pat.
swing the Satan stick, baby. Swing the Satan stick around.
Hey, Pat. I know we joking, but like we do appreciate you. And you always got a foothold here, so you can come on whenever you want to.
yeah. I was
All
just
right.
geeking out so hard, and I wanted to jump in and like Tim and I have exchanged messages plenty of times, but we've never. This isn't exactly face to face, but it's closer
yeah,
than exchanging messages, and
It's
so.
weird because
Um,
you took Patrick Rolling Stone all like my daddy pants scratches and shit that I had over here. But it's cool though. I ain't mad. I ain't mad at
Hey,
all.
I didn't have no daddy pants questions this time. I didn't have none.
I ain't mad at all.
And also, I actually really like this episode because this is one of the episodes where we got a lot of information. There wasn't a bunch of technical information, and I think this was a really good show. And I think this is reminiscent of the old bar episode. So I'm enjoying it.
yeah,
just
yeah.
storytelling.
I
Yeah.
actually didn't have any other questions. I had written down a couple things, some comments. Like I thought the cannibalism thing was funny with the exhibit
Yeah,
babies.
Right, he said
And
13 babies.
look,
They raised 13 babies and adults in that.
Yeah.
one time at Reptarium a couple of years ago, I got a message, and they were like, "Hey, man, we got this issue," and they had a couple juvenile beox that were housed together, and these were animals that were, it's hard to say how old the imports are, but 9-ish months range or whatever, and they had been fed together in the enclosure, and after they both ate, one of them ate the other one. So
yeah,
this chondro had a whole chondro and two appropriately sized feeder rodents in its belly. And I thought, they were like, "What do we do?" And I was like, "Well, you need to get it out of the cage and get it off. Don't let it perch." I said, "Throw it in a tub in the back, and either it's going to die, it's going to regurge, or it's going to die, one way or the other." It didn't do either of those things. It fucking digested that shit and
wow,
survived. Yeah, man.
that's
And
crazy.
it was not a whole
That's
lot
Kane.
bigger.
His name
Like
is Kane.
they were damn
Sounds
near the
like me
same
in Brazilian
size.
steakhouses.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Colin had one that ate one, ate a sibling, puked it
Mm,
up, and then died.
yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I did have two, well, it's two questions, but it's kind of one question. What when and why did you stop keeping and breeding chondros?
So I don't remember the last time I bred them. Christian and I did a breeding project back in 2013. That's probably the last one I had a direct hand in, like with an animal of mine. And then I had some just from offspring of that litter and a few others. And then slowly they dissipated. And then I was almost chondroless for about a month, and then Colin brought down these 8 babies for me to get started. So then, and I got one now still from there, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, the reason really was, I mean, they're just tough,
Yeah.
you know?
It's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time, and I probably have ADD, so I do something and I'm like, all right, what can I do next? And so, I've had a lot of other like animals I've like to focus on. Like my collection now, I've got like 60 snakes and probably 24 different species,
Yeah.
The main focal point, I guess, would be sort of the annulated boas, which I've bred a few
Yeah.
times.
Love
And
them.
I've got a few, and I've got a few tortoises. And so I've just kind of, as I've gotten older, just kind of wanted to delve into some other things. And I really, what I find that I like is I like the diversity. Like I
Yeah.
really respect some people that just dive into one thing and they do one thing, but then that's just not me. I like looking at different things and seeing what different things do. And, and of late, it's been more about just, really upgrading the digs of the things I keep, trying to, put things in bigger enclosures,
Yeah.
provide more enrichment, more different things. I don't really do anything on the, on like the bioactive level, but, I do a lot of more other naturalistic things.
Naturalistic. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to lean that way with most, but eventually all of the adult everything that I keep. I'm the same way with the diversity. Like, I mean, you see what's sitting behind me is a bunch of tubs, and that's the best way. I don't care what anybody says. The best way to raise everything, if you're going to do stuff at scale,
Oh,
it's the
absolutely.
only way to keep animals healthy. But in this is my baby room, and there's a shitload of chondros in here. But there's
Yeah, I can see
also
you're busy, man.
there are basins and northerns. I've got a bunch of different arboreal viper species in here, and
Oh,
there's
damn.
mangrove snakes and puff adders and just all kinds of shit in here. And a couple of corn snakes, and but
Love corn snakes.
there's Jamaican boas. I'm just looking around the room, trying to figure out what else in here.
Wow.
I'm gonna get a black monitor. I'm gonna get a black monitor and a capuchin monkey.
Monkeys are terrible pets, dude.
What locality are your Jamaicans? Are they right near the beach?
Right near the
I'm hoping to have some more coming from Tom Crutchfield. These were zoo-bred Jamaican boas.
Cool.
Those are dope.
The Red Mountain boas, right? The Red Mountain.
No, I have those too. Those are Dominican. The Jamaicans are a different species.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scott
Dominicans
Stahl actually offered me a trio of the Dominicans.
Well, they suck to keep, but they're pretty.
After I did some research, I was like, yeah, no thanks, Scotty. I'm good.
Why they suck to keep?
They're gorgeous, man.
They are smelly, messy, just
nasty
things. They have that genus has the worst musk of any snake in existence. The Cubans are the worst. It smells like a combination of snake musk and rotting roadkill. Like it literally smells like death. It's rough.
That sounds like
they
a
smear
Fox
urine
News comment section
all over everything. They also, the babies are anole
Come on,
eaters.
man, they're the real news, right?
There's no such thing as real news.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
His Alex Jones.
Scott, I didn't think about you being out that way. You got to be buddies with Scott. I love Scott. He is the best reptile vet in the world.
Yeah. Well, he's been throwing me the last few years. I've got a group of pancake tortoises, and he's been breeding them, and so he knows I've got the facility to kind of rear up the juveniles and babies. So he he calls me. He's like, "Hey, man, you got room for a couple more?" I'm like, "Yeah, bring them up."
Yeah, he used to.
He's a great guy.
That's one of the things I like about Scott is that he is a keeper, and a lot of reptile vets are not keepers. And Scott used to do chameleons, and he's seen more chondros than any vet anywhere ever. The dude is just brilliant and super generous with his time.
Yeah, he is.
I
And he
wish
used
I
to
had a
do
dude like that
back in
around,
the '90s. He did house calls for, like, he would do routine house visits to Ralph's, to Pete's.
Wow.
And
and he does phone consultations, and he charges it's like $4.75 a minute to talk to him on the phone, like a phone sex line or something. Y'all remember those from the '90s?
Yeah,
And,
I remember. I got a funny story about that.
I ran up one of my grandma's phone bills like $600.
I remember we used the school's phone to try it, but they wouldn't give us nothing because we didn't have a credit card, so they wouldn't.
Well, that's what I tell Scott now. I'm like, hey man, we're at the end of the reptile part of this conversation. How about the happy ending now? Come on, $4.75.
Yeah, but look,
I don't know how much it was.
Scott,
I was on the phone beating off when I was like 11. I was
getting that's where the show turns.
Look,
hey, it's past midnight now.
I just want to say this about Scott while people are. I want to say this about Scott while we're listening is that if anybody ever has an issue and they want to have a consultation, it is worth every fucking penny to get Scott Stahl on the phone. Every penny. Dude, everything he says is gold. I've known him long enough where I can usually just send him some pretty snake pictures and he gives me some pretty good information through email. But if I needed to get him on the phone, I pay him for his time every time, and it is worth every single penny. Scott Stahl is an amazing dude and the best reptile vet in the world.
You pay that $4.75 for them pictures, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there were snake pictures, man.
Hey,
like discount to Pat's OnlyFans.
When I first started going to RAL to the lab a whole lot, there was a gentleman that used to work there that you never would have known that he was not straight looking at him.
Oh, you told me this shit.
But hey, no joke. Chad was like, send Dave nudes and you won't have to pay that bill for those tests. And I thought he was joking, and he was not joking.
Ouch.
Well, you sent it to him, you got everything free?
Well, I get hooked up there a lot, but I may or may not have sent anybody any pictures.
You got everything free. You nasty.
Pat gets hooked up in the champagne room, man.
I'm gonna say, man, when you say you're getting hooked up, man, that can have a lot of meanings here, you know.
It could. We'll just say this. Dave doesn't work there anymore, but I still got the hookup at the lab. So you can read into that however you want.
Pat nasty. Pat Buck nasty.
I still got Dave's number.
I mean,
in black and white.
Look, I got fire nudes is all I'm gonna say.
There you go, man. Hey, whatever it takes, man.
I feel like Pat doesn't send like text message nudes. Like Pat's it's just he sends Polaroids of him in fucking Speedo and shit with oil on his chest.
Yeah, and hella forced perspective.
Pat, don't be honest with you, Pat. You send me a lot of pictures, Pat. Never send me those, okay? Never.
I won't.
Keep those. Please keep those.
I won't.
I didn't see your picture after this, Pat.
Look, boss.
I'm trying to get into that reptile room. I'm trying to get a shopping spree, bro. I'm trying to get a shopping spree.
Hey, can I? You mind if I bring this back to Chondros and show off just a little bit?
Yeah.
What's up, Pat?
Let's see it.
Go ahead.
Ooh.
There you are.
Ooh, let it focus a little bit.
So this the David Brown's artifact outcross.
Yeah.
Oh man.
This is
That's nice.
the proudest thing that I've ever done in snake breeding. This is the coolest snake I've ever hatched out in my life, and I've been hatching snakes since '95. And this is the coolest thing. Breeding chondros since 2010, and this is the
That's
coolest thing
cool.
I've ever hatched out. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
it's
this
nice.
fucking snake.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks, man. I love this little
Look at his
dude or
eyes, his
dudette.
fire red
Yeah.
I
eyes.
know.
Yeah,
Looks
man.
looks like Keno's eyes.
Yeah, I love this snake. Kino,
On
is
the
this what color your
wrong
eyes are
flights.
under those glasses?
Wrong flights, Patrick. We on the wrong flight.
Listen, that looks like Keno's eyes,
We on wrong flights, Patrick.
bro. Keno's eyes be looking like he done walked a mile in the Sahara, bro. It's
Pat,
just
you gonna
like-
see when I come down to Texas. You gonna see when I come down to Texas.
I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue what his eyes look like. He's always got them fucking Bruno Mars glasses on.
You gonna see when I come down to Texas, Pat. I look like a
Need to
red
bring it
Neo.
down here,
I
man.
got like red Neo eyes.
Red Neo eyes. Huh?
Yeah, he got eyes like Vampire Brooklyn, bro.
Oh no! What the fuck?
That's a great fucking movie, man.
I love that movie.
Travis is always going to come through. Not an episode will pass that Travis won't come through with a movie
You
reference.
like the black
Travis is
suit.
going to have that movie reference.
Hey, I got to. God damn it!
Yeah.
Yeah. So Patrick, what you need my address for that? You forget my address or the what?
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to be arrogant, but there is not you can't buy this animal. Like, there's not a price tag you can put on this
That's a
snake.
nice ass snake. I know when you
Yeah,
first showed the clutch pitch, and I was like right away, I was like, yeah, that's
no,
it
there is
wasn't
no
wrong.
price. There's no price that anybody has ever paid for a chondro that could talk me out of this snake. It's not because I think it's worth $20,000 or whatever. It's because this snake is the coolest thing I've ever hatched out, and I'm going to raise it up and watch it change colors and make more cool babies with it, and that's priceless to me.
You check on it every day?
No.
No.
No, but some days I check on it 3 or 4 times, so I'll make up for it. It's a good feeder too, if y'all believe that.
I got one I check.
Looks like it's healthy.
The nicest ones are usually a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I'm up way past my bedtime, and I still got the lights on, and I'm keeping these snakes up. But you know what? These snakes keep me up, so fuck them.
Hey man, we glad you're here, Pat. For real about that. I'm for real about that shopping spree.
And
I need to find
man.
more. I need to find more ways to upset my wife. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had 6 clutches this year, so there's going to be some more stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let me know, man.
Tim, why was you why was you only feeding rats, and how early, I guess, to kind of put a wrap on it, how early did you start feeding rats? Because me and Patrick have the discussion about when to do rats all the time. So when did your neos your babies that you raised up, when did you kind of switch them over to rats?
I never did. I was primarily a mouse feeder.
Really? Okay.
Some of the females I would feed small rats to. The medium rat thing and the small medium rat thing was just for that one female, honestly. And that's because when Trooper and I did that exchange,
Where'd he go?
What happened? I think Pat froze too.
No, Pat ain't froze.
No.
I still see his fan moving.
Pat, how you sit so still, bro?
Yoga.
Oh man.
What was you saying though, Tim? You was breaking up, Tim.
Oh, I was just saying I primarily fed mice.
Okay.
So the small medium rat thing was mainly just that one female that I traded with Trooper, and she was feeding small mice or small rats when I got her, and after a period of time they weren't making a bulge, so bumped her up to medium.
Damn.
But almost everything else was either adult mice or small rats at the biggest. I don't think I fed any of the other females medium rats.
Yeah,
Fed her almost like a berm.
I feed everything mice until they're big enough to eat weaned rats, and then once they're big enough to eat weaned rats, if it's a female, they'll just stay on rats. And the only time that I'll feed them mice is if it's a smaller female and I'm doing the frequent meals thing during cycling. Males, some of my males are really small, and I just either don't feed them weaned rats at all, or like we'll go occasionally feed them a weaned rat and then usually feed them adult mice. But I also don't do jumbo mice. Once they're past the large adult size, they're like flabby retired breeders, and that's why I switch at that point to the weaned rats, because that's the next step up in size. And the weaned rats, it's a perfect transition, because right as you get to the size of where the mice are have less nutritional value, that's the next step up, is when rats are just big enough to have full nutritional value, because they're weaned and full skeletal system, well muscled, but they're still lean and young. And I do feed medium rats, but only to the biggest females, and not every time. It just depends on where they're at with their weight and their cycling.
That makes a lot of sense.
All right.
So, you want to call it, or you want to keep going?
Let's keep going. I mean,
Let's keep going.
Let's
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going there.
Yeah, I'm good for about 10 more minutes, man. How about that?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are an hour behind me, so it's 12:15. I got to face 7th graders in about 8 hours.
So listen, before you get out
I'm
of
off
here
tomorrow.
Oh, good deal. I wish I would took the day.
Tim, before you get out of here, you got to explain this to me. Why did you guys give James the nickname Stovepipe?
Wait, Snow what?
Stovepipe. Stovepipe. So many years ago, when was this? About 2000.
Oh, man.
I'm sure I'll have the date wrong. I always do, but
Oh.
2008, somewhere in that ballpark, or 2009. I don't remember. Might have been earlier. So there's a guy in the Netherlands, Jurgen.
Yeah,
Patrick,
Jurgen.
you know Jurgen?
Vance,
Yeah. Okay. So we had a Jurgen Fest here in Maryland.
For a while too, man.
Yeah. So we had a Jurgen Fest here in Maryland, and John Holland, the owner of Mr. Blue, he does saltwater fish tanks as his main business. So he builds big ones and then maintains them. And he built a big 2,000-gallon tank and maintained it in this Chinese restaurant, Hunan Manor in Colombia. So we decided to have it there. And so anyways, this was like, really, I think this might have been the first time that I met James. And he had a friend of his, I want to say his name was Dave. And so we go to this Jurgen Fest, and James is just blottoed, to put it in his terms, and he's also
sweaty face, the dope male.
And he's also like infuriating John, because he's trying to get the employees at this restaurant high, right? And so, Johnny Blue's getting shit now, because the manager's pissed off, and then I think is because he was trying to pick up a couple different girls, and so we started calling them Stovepipe, just trying to just trying to nail what wiggles, doing his little caudal luring thing.
Does
So
he actually
that's
when he coddle lures, does he actually pull it out? Or you can just
oh,
tell. It's like,
he probably would. I don't know that I would increase the success, but yeah.
Does he do the fast technique like a Biak or the slow like a Sorong?
He's probably quick draw, man.
he's
Hey,
like, you'll never know I was in there. You'll never know I
Nah,
was
man.
in there.
I'm pretty sure that's how it all came to be. So yeah.
You're a fool.
So that was just kind of a nickname that stuck, man. But
I have one more quick one that's relevant to the conversation. It was hard for me to pick out which one. This animal is his sire is a blue deuce watermelon.
Oh no shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So he's got those nice burnt orange, diamonds.
Exactly. That's what we look for in the Biak outcrosses, right? Mm-hmm. You want the dark babies with the orange diamonds and the funky patterns. And there's a few in this that have these kind of broken, kind of clover-shaped diamonds that are just really awesome. And this guy's got some on the neck. This one's also feeding really, really well. A couple of these, a few in this clutch are a real pain in the ass. They're just now 2 months old, so it's not like, I think I was being a little dramatic with myself about how much of a pain in the ass these were being, because I have almost all of them eating at 2 months old. But anyways, I bred that male to a Biak. So these are blue deuce. Watermelon was a Wamena Biak cross, so these are blue deuce watermelon times Biak.
That's cool.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that blue deuce male that I have, he's the bluest animal I've seen from the blue deuce, either of the blue deuce watermelon clutches, which was that was a really cool pairing.
That's beautiful. All right,
Where is one of the artifact? Hold on. Pull out one of the 19 females that you might breed this upcoming spring.
Oh, I'm not gonna go get in there right now, dude. It's dangerous in the adult room over there.
I know. Go get a 19.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The 19s are all in the adult room. It's dangerous over there right now.
Go get one. Hold on. You can put your hand in there with a damn rattlesnake. You can go get a damn.
I don't reach into my rattlesnake cages.
You did though.
Actually, hey, how about I get out that blue deuce male? He won't try to eat me.
That's cool.
Hey, your ass put your damn whole hand up in there with that damn rattlesnake.
Yeah, I don't trust that.
No, the rattlesnakes, nah. I can't do it.
Pat is a different breed, man. Pat's gonna outlive us all.
Well, I don't know if he keeps doing that shit with the rattlesnakes. I don't know.
No, Pat outlive us all.
He'll have a couple stays at the hospital. He'll bounce out of it.
He got a better chance of going to see the Titanic.
Are you talking about the old Titanic or that submarine you keep on looking at?
The new submarine.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, man.
That's nice.
That's the blue deuce one, the father.
Yeah, I'm gonna. If I can get him to show you his head, he has blue deuce's head and face. He's a little jumpy at night, so.
That's cool. He's nice looking.
Yeah, he's a
big male.
Yeah, he got the blue.
It's forced perspective. He's a pretty average sized male. He's about, I don't know, maybe 500 grams, something like that.
He got a big head though.
Yeah, he's got the yellow neck and big old claws and just really, really nice blues on this guy. Black flecks, got the yellow speckling on the tail. He's just an incredible snake, man. Really, really nice animal. Blue Deuce was a stud, man. He produced some really, really amazing.
He certainly was, yeah.
All right, dude, simmer down.
All right. Well, you know, it's been an amazing episode, and I can't say thank you enough, Tim. We really appreciate you
My
for coming
pleasure, guys.
through. We
Good
appreciate
times.
Pat.
For sure, Tim. We really take
Our
it. Thank you. I know this went over, and I know you got to deal with them badass kids
Nah, it's all
tomorrow.
good, man.
Tomorrow
I'll never pass up an opportunity to talk. It's talk about the stuff like that. It's fun.
We
Yeah, this
appreciate
was
As long
you
as
coming
people,
through too,
as
Pat.
long as
this
people
is
want to hear the
Thank
shit,
you.
I'm good talking about it.
Thank you.
this is definitely a trip down memory lane, man. I was able to,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
just like Patrick, man. I was over here. All giddy when he started mentioning all
Yeah.
these names
Yeah.
and shit. You know.
Yeah, I really was, man. I was listening to it while I was driving, and just it's just awesome. I love talking about this stuff. I love hearing about the
Yeah.
history. I really appreciate you guys letting me jump in and hijack it for a little while,
We don't care.
because it's this stuff is awesome to me.
Now, Patrick, you
We
know you're the
gotta.
only one. You're the only one
Yeah.
that got the pass
Yeah.
to do that
Yeah, you like
because you know what you be talking about.
we're like Ninja
No.
Turtles, and you're like Splinter.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly. He's Splinter.
I'm a salesman. I'm real good at sounding like I know what I'm talking about.
No,
you
you
being
do.
modest. You being modest.
Yeah, you do.
You lying.
But we appreciate you, Tim, for real. Pat, you
Yeah.
can come through anytime. You got any
Yeah.
shout outs that you want to give out, Tim?
Tim just dropping jewels all over the floor tonight, man. I
Tim,
appreciate
you gotta
it,
come
Tim,
back
man.
too. You gotta come back.
I'll do it.
Okay. We're gonna
I'll try to line up Trooper for you guys and see what I can do there.
Yeah, we gotta get
That would be
James on
so
too.
badass.
Yeah.
He hasn't done many,
Trooper,
not on camera anyway.
Yeah, get Trooper.
But he needs to go on, man. I mean,
make that happen for us.
his history needs to be, on the digital.
Yeah.
I agree.
On the digital world,
Yeah, you need a digital footprint out there.
We'll sweeten the pot with Polaroids for Pat too. So that's all it is.
Is that gonna be a new segment?
Hey,
Polaroids of Pat.
Just don't let me jump in on that one, because I'm gonna start asking questions about fucking Komodo dragons and shit and fuck the whole game up.
Hey man,
first of all, if we get it to happen, like you're just gonna be there. Like you gotta come in.
Yeah.
He is gonna start talking about Komodo dragons. But hey, look, man, I got these new Komodo dragons from Tom Cruise.
I'll try to stay off the Komodo dragons.
Pat probably does have a Komodo dragon already. That's the craziest part.
He came straight in talking about Komodo dragons. Right?
He's just like, hey, I want to talk about this Komodo dragon situation.
No, like, hey, I seriously was thinking I have like 6 snake rooms, and I'm thinking maybe one of them can go so I can have a Komodo dragon.
Look at his eyes when he said that shit. Like he's really gonna make it happen. Pat's gonna he's gonna be like the people that used to keep alligators in the bathroom. He's gonna have a Komodo dragon in a bedroom. That's what's gonna happen.
Alligators in the basement.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's illegal enough that I'm the new me. The old me didn't give a fuck, but I'm not that me anymore. So whatever. But when I come in with Trooper, I'm gonna try to keep myself from saying immediately, we're not gonna talk about Komodo dragons, but I have questions about Komodo dragons.
Listen, we're not gonna stop you from doing anything.
Hijack and talk about Komodo dragons the whole time.
The Komodo Dragon Bar Room, that's what it's gonna become.
Yeah.
He gonna be talking about Bloodline dragon.
Yeah, Tim, if you can make that help facilitate that, Tim, I'm speaking for the whole Chondro community across the globe.
I'm sure, man. I mean, I would love to see it.
Really appreciate it. Yeah. We would
definitely
appreciate it.
Trying to line up, in his health and how he feels.
Yeah.
If that could be,
like I said, we'll make a concession for him whenever he feels.
Well, I know, but like I said, I mean, it could quite literally be somewhat spur of the moment, and so, and I know that wouldn't be the best case scenario, like from a planning standpoint from like your
Yeah.
end,
Yeah.
We don't care. We'll make it
but I
work.
mean, I don't
We'll
think
make
he's
we
done
hey,
really
we got to
any
switch it up in
video
the last minute.
podcasts.
We make it up in the
Yeah.
last minute. We'll make
Yeah,
up for it. We'll come up with something. We
yeah,
did it
Yeah.
before.
You
yeah.
just
We'll
got
figure.
you just
Patrick
got to
gonna
get
Yeah,
him
come
on
on.
court.
Patrick
no,
gonna
I'll
come
pitch
on
it,
and pull
man.
our
I think
snake
you'd
for us.
enjoy it. He definitely would enjoy it.
Well, that has been us for the Chondro Bar Room tonight. Special thanks to Tim and special thanks
Thank
to
you,
Pat.
Tim.
Hey, thank you guys, man.
Legendary, man.
Thanks for having
This
me.
was a legendary
Hey,
episode.
we appreciate it. We love this
I don't
episode.
care
I already know.
There's no
minus 10
legend in
times
here,
bigger.
man. You
Yes, it
guys.
is. Him right
Well,
here.
come to the
Him right
Chondro
I'm
there.
just.
Bar Room. We just be
Him
having
right there.
fun,
That dude
man.
right there. Yeah.
It's
He
not
lying.
serious, but this is the things that we want to do. This is not about making money. This is about us enjoying talking about Chondro history. That's
Just
what
having
this
a
is
good
all
time.
about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And good night.
Sweet,
Till
man.
next week,
Appreciate you
y'all.
guys, man.
Till next
Cheers.
week. Enjoy this one. This has been one of the ones, y'all. Next week.
Yeah, man.
Peace.
Cheers.
Yep.